Severe following yesterday's double stabbing in North London. LBC's Fraser Knight reports.
The government says this isn't exclusively about the targeting of the Jewish community in recent weeks or the stabbing of two men in Golders Green yesterday, but instead about the rising threat of both Islamist and right-wing extremism. It means that a terrorist attack is highly likely within the next 6 months, and the public is being told to be vigilant.
The Prime Minister's urged people to open their eyes to Jewish fear and suffering in an address to the nation following yesterday's attack. Earlier, Sir Keir Starmer was heckled as he visited the scene in North London. Shlomi Rand is one of the two injured men. He says the attack came out of nowhere.
This fellow came towards me, running towards me, and he just stabbed me in my chest. I ran to a nearby synagogue to take shelter. That way I noticed that I'm bleeding.
A 45-year-old man remains in custody. The head of the Met Police has criticised the Green Party leader for sharing what he called an inaccurate and misinformed social media post about the suspect's arrest. Zach Polanski amplified claims that officers violently and repeatedly kicked the man in the head. The cost of borrowing has been held at 3.75%. The Bank of England warns inflation could surge to more than 6% if the Iran crisis worsens. Iran's supreme leader is promising to take total control of the Strait of Hormuz to stop what he calls abuses by enemies. Reports in the US say Donald Trump's being briefed on his options for next steps. Middle East commentator Tara Kangalu says Iran is making plans too.
I think it's important to note that the Iranian parliament just a few days ago drafted a law formalising new rules on the Strait of Hormuz.
A 250-kilo Second World War bomb will be exploded tomorrow in Plymouth. It was found at a construction site yesterday and can't be safely defused. Teams will try to protect nearby shops and a church. Here's bomb disposal expert Colonel Nick Handy.
We're going to blow it in situ. We're going to try our hardest to deflagrate that item and burn it inside of a structure which will limit the damage to the local surroundings. I'm pretty confident that the mitigation that we put up will limit most of the damage.
3 teenagers have been jailed for 19 years between them for the manslaughter of a man they accused of being a paedophile. They pelted Alexander Cashford with rocks on a beach on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent last year. A coroner's found 2 British soldiers lost control and overreacted when they shot dead 5 civilians in Belfast in 1972. The 5 victims were unarmed and posed no risk when they were killed in the Spring Hill area. Patrick Butler's daughter Jacqueline says his name has been cleared.
His only crime was his kindness, helping those who were injured. For that, he was killed and wrongly labelled a gunman. That lie has burdened 3 generations of our family.
A fire that completely destroyed a popular gay club in Milton Keynes was an accident. The police have ruled out arson at the Pink Punters on Sunday. The King and Queen have visited the Arlington National Cemetery on the final day of their state visit to America.
Right shoulder!
Charles laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Donald Trump was heard to say they are great people as he said goodbye to the royals at the White House. And Banksy's claimed responsibility for a new sculpture in central London, saying there was a gap there. The artwork, just off the Mall, shows a man striding off a plinth with his face smothered by a flag. In the city, the FTSE 100's closed up 148 points at 10,361. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather, some rain in the southwest of the UK and Northern Ireland. Otherwise, clear, lows of 3 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Matt Hewitt.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
And a very good evening, Noswaith Dda from Cardiff. I'm Iain Dale here with you until 10 as usual. Now, with exactly a week to go before we all go to vote throughout England, Scotland and Wales, we're here in the Welsh capital for an election debate between the leaders of the 6 biggest political parties in Wales. They're here to answer your questions, and the number to call is 0345 6060 973. You can WhatsApp your question on that number too, or text 84850. And you're watching, if you're watching on the LBC YouTube channel, you can submit a question in the comments there. And of course, you can watch on Global Player or the LBC app. Now, the debate is going to last 90 minutes. No opening or closing statements, just your questions and our leaders' answers. Now, this is the final debate of the campaign. They're all a bit demob happy. I can just sense that. But it's the first radio debate. Now, I've asked all of our guests to feel free to challenge their opponents, but not to talk over each other because it really doesn't work on the radio. I will only intervene if I judge it's getting out of hand. It's for the politicians to challenge each other more than it is for me to do it. So let me introduce our leaders. To my left, First Minister and the leader of the Welsh Labour Party, Eluned Morgan, welcome. Yep. Next to her is the leader of the Welsh Conservatives, Darren Millar, and then Anthony Slaughter, the leader of the Green Party of Wales. To my right, Rhyn ap Iorwerth, the leader of Plaid Cymru. Dan Thomas is next to him, the leader of Reform UK Wales, and next to him, Jane Dodds, the leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats. Now, on the train down to Cardiff this morning, I saw a tweet from James. Let me just read it to you. He says, can you do us a favour, Iain? Can you throw some curveball questions in there so that we don't have to listen to scripted lines and statements being churned out verbatim like all the other leaders' debates? It would be great to see some real thinking on the feet from these people. Well, we got in touch with James, and he'll be asking a question later. Whether it's a curveball one, I don't know. But I think he makes a good point, because it would be good to have a sort of slightly more informal conversation rather than maybe the formal TV debates, but that is entirely up to you. Let's go to our first question, and it's a very serious one, and it's really surrounding the events of today and yesterday. Kevin in Cardiff asked a text question. The UK's terror threat level has been raised to severe, so how would each party help keep Wales safe? Eluned Morgan, let's start with you. You've had the responsibility for this jointly with the UK government since you've been First Minister. Do you have any ideas for the future on how Wales can be kept safer?
Well, I think the first responsibility of government is to keep people safe, and we have to take that seriously. I'm very concerned about rising temperatures amongst some elements within our communities. I think that's being fuelled by some political parties more than others. I think any form of violence is unacceptable, but particularly if it's based on ethnicity or religion. We've worked hard as a government to try and enhance community relations. We have an interfaith relationship. We meet very regularly with our faith communities. We have an anti-racism action plan. And I do think that we are very serious here about promoting community cohesion. That's our interest. I think there are other parties here represented tonight, notably Reform, who are interested in creating divisions within our communities, and that is not the kind of Wales that I want to see in future.
Well, Dan Thomas, that's a fairly serious accusation.
I find that really surprising, because everyone on this panel knows that I used to be a councillor in the Golders Green area where this attack happened. I know the community really well, and this is the incident that's given way to this question. And I know the community really well, and they've been living for decades in fear, and they have to have their schools and synagogues have security guards outside, and there's a real security concern there. And that's one of the ways I know that we can try and keep people safe, because that's what the question is: how do we keep people safe? Because sadly, and unfortunately, there will always be people looking to attack our democracy and attack certain groups in this country, and that's been there ever since time has begun, unfortunately. So I would absolutely look to keep that protection in place for places of worship where there is risk. I think we'd have to work with the police and with all the charitable organisations out there as well. But what also doesn't help is when Senedd members concern themselves more with issues going on in the Middle East or Palestine, more than addressing the issues here in Wales, such as NHS and schools and what have you. I think the people out there want us to focus on actions here. And it doesn't help when certain Senedd candidates talk about Israel being a terrorist state and really stoking up the language. It's really divisive. None of my candidates have said that, but some Plaid Cymru candidates have, and I'd like to ask Rhyn if you would condemn those remarks, because it's those kinds of remarks that are leading to attacks such as happened today.
Well, it's good of you all to dictate the order of service here, Rhyn.
And there is a Jewish community in Wales that is very scared. I was speaking to them today. They are very worried about their day-to-day activities, going to worship, going to school.
Okay,
yeah, Again, throwing accusations around. We remember the Reform candidate who had to drop out of the race in the last few days because he was pictured doing a Nazi salute. So let's put that in.
Can we just all agree
context.
right from the start that you've all got candidates who've said injudicious things, some more than others, but it happens in all parties.
Yeah. So first thing is to say our thoughts are with not just the Jewish community in Golders Green, but of course here in Wales, and we have to recognise the real fear that people sense now going about their day-to-day lives. I was speaking with one member of the Jewish community today who was here in Cardiff talking about her fear. There are two answers to the question. The question is, how can we keep Wales safe? There's a policy answer. Through policing and making sure that security has enough investment to look after communities that feel threatened, be they Jewish or Muslim or other religious groups or other minorities. And I'll make the case here that we should be allowed to control policing here in Wales so we can make those decisions. We pay now directly for more than half of policing in Wales, but we're not allowed to run it. That's still done by the Home Office. But secondly, a non-policy way to look at it is that it's up to us to show political leadership. I lead a party for whom tolerance is a given. We have to be setting the kind of level of tolerance that we would expect of the people that we represent. And clearly, Dan Thomas here did used to talk about, when he was a Conservative councillor, the importance of looking after people who came to the UK. Now he does not. He uses that as a political weapon. Let's preach tolerance because we have to look after each other.
Do you want to come back on that, Dan?
So, you can respect existing communities in this country, and this is what happens with the immigration debate. You can respect and love and cherish the communities that are already here, legally established and welcomed and contribute to society, whilst having concerns about the levels of immigration. And to conflate the two, that's when it starts to get divisive. And I want to have a very calm, rational and emotive discussion about immigration, the levels of immigration, whether we should, get people in.
Let's not get into that now, because there may well be a question on that a bit later.
But let's not conflate concern over immigration about intolerance,
Okay.
and that's what the left like to do.
All right, Jane Dodds.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, now is the time, isn't it, where we should all come together and speak with one voice as Welsh Party leaders. And for me, it is about community cohesion, it is about leadership, it is about modelling. The situation now with many of our communities is really dire. Many of them are scared and fearful for many reasons. And we know the situation with regards to anti-Semitism, and that's really what it is. And we need to ensure that we have this address through potentially declaring this an emergency that means that we have to really step up the security, really ensure that we've got visible policing. But at the end of the day, we have to really come together on this, and that's the most important thing for me.
Darren.
You know what? I'm really concerned about the rising tide of anti-Semitism across the UK. It's happening here in Wales as well. We've had issues in Cardiff, unfortunately.
Because there's a very small Jewish population.
It's a very small Jewish population.
2,000 people.
That's right, and it feels persecuted at times, because of the wider picture. And tensions in the Middle East have inflamed that. There's no doubt about that. But this whole issue, I think, starts with trying to get our education system right. And I'm afraid that some of our universities have become hotbeds of anti-Semitism. I think it's a disgrace that some of our universities here in Wales have not adopted the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. That's wrong. I wanted the Welsh Government in the previous Senedd to take action to address that by making their funding conditional on that. It chose not to. It resisted every call that I made to do that. And I think as well, the Jewish community here in Wales, I've spoken to them and meet with them regularly on many occasions. They've raised concerns about some of the textbooks that people have used in schools, particularly those that talk around the Middle East conflict, and whether that's helping to fuel some anti-Jewish sentiment. So there's work that can be done, particularly through our education system. I mean, one thing I will say for the Welsh Government, and hopefully on a cross-party basis here, is that we do have very good cross-faith community relations in the Senedd as a parliament, and between the government and the faith communities in Wales. And that's something we can build upon, but there's much more action that we can take. And I think what's really been disappointing is to learn tonight that the leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, has actually criticised the police for intervening to stop somebody with murderous intent.
To be fair, I think that's a slight exaggeration. I think what he did was retweet a tweet that was doing that.
Well, there's a criticism.
Well, there is a slight difference there, isn't there? Well, let's hear from Anthony Slaughter. Anthony, I know you're aware of this. Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Police Commissioner, he's written to Zach Polanski this evening, basically saying he shouldn't have done it. What's your view?
Thank you. I'll come back to that, but I just want to address the question first, as everyone else has. And like Irene, I think we need to go back to the starting point that prompted this question, the horrible, harrowing scenes that we saw, the things that unfolded in Golders Green yesterday, and the breaking news story in Stamford Hill, which is still, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it's an area I know and love very well. I lived there for many years. And I think we need to come back to listening to people. We need to tackle the scourge of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all forms of bigotry in our society. That's what that stoking up those fears leads to events like this. And I think we need to reflect as politicians and political leaders, and I think Jane is absolutely right. This is a moment for solidarity, not point scoring. And we need to address, how do we make Wales safe? How do we make our communities safe? I agree with Irene on we need the control over policing and justice to be in charge of that in Wales. But it's also going back to there's some brilliant interfaith work going on in the mosques and synagogues. I spoke at prayers in a mosque on Friday, and people, the Muslim community, the Jewish community, are in fear. And no one should be scared to go to their place of worship or their place of education or be scared in their communities. And we have a job. Something I say quite often, it's not enough to be anti-racist, to be anti-Semitic. You have to be actively anti-racist. You have to go out into those communities, listen to them and work with them and build that community cohesion, which, let's also be fair, 14 years of Tory austerity ripped apart communities, creating the breeding ground for this hatred. But then we also need to come back to when political parties indulge dog whistle racist rhetoric, they are stoking this. They are legitimising this. They will go as close as they can, stirring up division and fear in our communities, and that absolutely should not be tolerated. To come back to the question about Zach, yes, I was made aware of this on my way here just shortly beforehand. I haven't seen the tweet. I understand, as you say, Iain, that Zach retweeted a tweet, but it does seem, from what I've read, was inappropriate to retweet. I know that Zach and his other colleagues in the London Assembly do work closely with the Met Police, so there will be discussions afterwards to see what went wrong, how this can be better handled in future. It's also the scourge of social media when news is coming at you, bombarding, and people... It took me a long time to train myself not to send tweets or post comments on social media.
Some of us still haven't trained ourselves.
But I can't speak for Zach. I haven't spoken to him since.
But there is an accusation that all of the anti-Semites who used to infest the far left of the Labour Party have now joined the Green Party, and you seem quite happy, or your party seems quite happy to accept them.
Absolutely no tolerance for any anti-Semitic behaviour, any Islamophobic behaviour. It's notable that it's Labour politicians saying that's happened. I haven't seen much evidence of it. We have had no complaints of anti-Semitic behaviour or Islamophobic behaviour in Wales regarding members and candidates. Stories do come out. Political parties reflect society. Society, unfortunately, does have racism at its heart, but it is not tolerated in the Green Party. We have robust disciplinary procedures, of which, as leadership members, the leadership team, we play no part in. But I can't be more clear. There is no place for it in our party.
Right, let's move on to a subject which I know you've all debated ad nauseum in the other debates, but we've got a very interesting question here from Spike in Tenby. Hello, Spike.
Good evening.
What would you like to ask?
Evening, leaders. I joined the military aged 17 in 1980. I served 35 years till I was discharged in 2015 with a 30% war disability pension. But I was very fortunate to get a position as a beefeater in the Tower of London. Took part in the funeral and the subsequent coronation. But after 9 years of walking on those ancient cobbles, mobility obviously suffered. So I had to retire, and we chose Tenby because I was married in Wales, married a Welsh lady in 1983. So reached out to Haldar University Health Board, the NHS, about my mobility issues. And having had to pay £360 for an MRI, found out I needed both knees replacing. And they told me I would be seen in December 2027 because of my priority 4 as a veteran, which I was obviously totally alarmed about, having to wait 2 years. So I eventually paid £14,000 last month at Bristol. So my question to the panel is, how would you ensure that veterans are given the treatment they deserve in line with the Armed Forces Covenant by bringing down the unacceptable waiting list, not just for us, but the whole rest of the Welsh community?
It's an interesting question because I looked this up earlier when we knew that Spike was going to ask this question. The waiting list for knee surgery in England is between 6 and 8 months. In Wales, it seems to be, as Spike's experience shows, 2 years. Reen, why is that, and what can you do about it if you get into power?
It's unacceptable, and thank you, Spike, for your question and the way you described your situation. And absolutely, we should be looking after you. But you made the point yourself that this should be for everyone. And Labour will say this still is about COVID. Well, no, sorry, we can't keep on blaming COVID forever. We have a deep unsustainability within the health and care service in Wales that we have to address. We could also look at the emergence, because of the unsustainability of the NHS in Wales, of a two-tier health system. It's not right that you had to pay for diagnosis. It's not right that you had to pay for that treatment. There are two things there. A, we don't want a two-tier service, and then there are other people who wouldn't be able to afford it at all. And I'm hearing more and more examples of GPs telling people, listen, you're going to be on a long waiting list for this diagnosis, or for 150 quid you could get it done quicker. That's not acceptable.
So what are you going to do about that? You're going to abolish private health?
So short term, no. There's no talk of abolishing private health, but that is part of the two-tier health system we want to try to avoid. We believe there is a sustainability that we can get. Short term, we need a further injection of funds into the NHS. It's something that we have said we would do, £100 million plus in the first year, on top of £180 million that we got from government in a deal on the budget for 26-27, because we need to put the NHS on as firm a foundation as possible. We'll employ 100 extra GPs. We will establish 10 surgical hubs, and so on. But we cannot, for the long term, think that the answer is to keep on throwing more money.
With respect, that seems like a drop in the ocean.
Exactly. So what I was saying is, you cannot think that the answer to the NHS's problems is throwing more and more money at it. So that's where we come to the second part, which is building that sustainability, the preventative agenda, keeping people healthier, moving resource from secondary care towards primary care, beginning that work straight away if we're able to come into government, because that's where most contact is with the health service, and that's how you stop problems from becoming larger and causing the expensive problems within the NHS. We've got to build that sustainability, plus, of course, investing in social care.
Can I just ask, Reen,
this is Darren Miller.
Do you accept that you're also responsible for the state of our NHS? I mean, Plaid's been in coalition, cooperation agreements, you've done budget deals over the years, compact agreements.
It's probably...
Do you accept any responsibility at all? Because I think it's a bit rich to keep criticising without accepting and acknowledging your role in this.
No, and it's worth giving the context. Yes, there was a coalition 20 years ago, almost now. What we've done as an opposition party is try to influence government to do things that otherwise it wouldn't. We've never had an agreement on the NHS because we haven't agreed with Labour's approach on the NHS. That's why we need a fresh start and new ideas, because Labour is trying the same thing over and over and again. You keep on doing that, you're not going to get better results.
Well, we're not.
Right, Darren Miller for the Conservatives. Do you want to just expand on...
First thing I want to say to Spike is thank you for your service, Spike.
Especially as a beefeater.
I mean, very impressive.
I've never had a beefeater on the programme
Very
before.
impressive. We had a troop of beefeaters turn up in St Asaph Cathedral just a few weeks ago for the Maunday service, the Royal Maunday service, and they were very impressive. But thank you for your service. One of the things which I think Wales needs to get better at is looking after its veterans. We've made some very clear commitments in our manifesto to make sure that veteran healthcare is prioritised. So we want more investment going into veterans' mental health services. We're blessed to have some of the best mental health services for veterans, I think, in the UK here in Wales, but we've had to fight for them on a cross-party basis to get those improved. But the waiting times, I think, for people with service-related issues are completely unacceptable. And they are, if you think it's 2 years is horrific down in West Wales, Come to North Wales, there are people there waiting 3 and 4 years still for their knee and hip operations, and it's really, really bad. So we do need to take action on this. We need to take specific targeted action for our veteran community if they've got service-related issues, but we need to take the wider, broader action as well of making sure that we are away from the crisis that we've got in our NHS, and it is a crisis because we know that we don't have enough beds in our hospitals. That's leading, according to the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, to 1,000 deaths a year.
But do you not have
and if we have the surge
you
in
questioned
beds,
Reen about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But do you not have to take responsibility as well? You haven't been in power in Wales, but there was a Conservative government for 14 years, which I'm sure Eluned is about to tell us underfunded the NHS for 14 years.
Well, of course, Eluned will claim that. Of course, she will claim that. But the reality is we spend more on the NHS per head in Wales and get worse results. And it's not just me saying that. The IFS have confirmed it as well. So it's about the policy decisions that have been taken in Wales, which have not delivered the high quality and timely care that people need. But if we get on top of the bed situation in our NHS, then that means that those beds aren't taken up by emergency patients all the time. They can actually be there for planned and elective care, and that's the problem.
Anthony Slaughter for the Greens.
Yes, firstly, thanks for the question, Spike. And there are 2 questions here really to answer conflated. It is how the veterans get treated, and this is something I've been doing a lot of work on. We have a former deputy leader of Wales Green Party who is a veteran, and I'm speaking closely to friends and colleagues who are, so that really does have to be addressed. I would agree with Darren on that. That is an issue in and of itself. But then how do we tackle those waiting times and having to go private is absolutely unacceptable, and we are in a state of crisis. And we need more money, but not more money, as has been said, isn't the only answer. Now, Wales has an increasingly ageing population. We're going to see more increasing cases of dementia and related conditions. The pressure is going to get even more incredible on the NHS. So we need to look at how we reshape things. And we're talking a lot in our manifesto about moving some resources from secondary care to primary care. So to have dentists.
So the same as Reen?
Yes, very much along the same lines. Having dentists and GPs and community health hubs so people can get treated earlier on, closer to home, and not end up in a state of crisis. But that also, and then we look at all other preventive things like fixing housing, fixing accessible public transport. All these things help, but if you're in corridor care or you're waiting 48 hours or longer in A&E, these solutions don't help you. So we're putting forward solutions about tackling corridor care, and one of the big scandals of corridor care is it's not measured. So when people come back and say, how much will that cost? How can we know? Because the government doesn't even know how many cases there are. So the first thing we want to do is get that declared a never event so we can start monitoring that. But we also come back to, and it's come up again and again in this round of debates, we come up against the brick wall that Wales isn't fairly funded. And we're owed money from HS2, for instance, the devolution of the Crown Estate, which is Welsh Labour policy, but the Labour government in Westminster won't allow that. So we've got to also, I am aware that saying we need fairer funding for Wales and we will fight for fairer funding doesn't address the here and now.
Jane Dodds for the Liberal Democrats.
Well, firstly, Spike, thank you for the question. And you have served our country and we need to look after you. And I'm sorry that you've gone through the situation where you've lived in pain and agony for some time, and you had the prospect of that continuing with really no choice but to spend your hard-earned savings on an operation that should be available to you free of charge because of what you've done for your country, but also what you've paid into taxes. So it's a shocking situation. I'm so sorry that you are in that place. In our manifesto, we've got a real key priority, which we are clear will help our NHS, and that is we need to fund social care better. And if I just explain this really quickly, if we can move people out of hospitals faster than is happening now, and if we can stop them going into the hospitals in the first place, then that means our hospitals and our other health resources are actually protected for people like Spike to get the operations that they need much faster. Right now in Wales, there's 1,400 people waiting to leave hospital. They can't leave hospital because they can't get an assessment for social care and they can't get social carers. Every day, every hour they are there, they get worse. Now, if we have a better funded social care system, then we can move those people out, create the beds, ensure the staff is there, and get those key operations that people like Spike need.
How much would that cost, though? Because I know you've come under pressure, shall we say, in a previous interview for not having costed any of your manifesto. How much would that bit cost?
This one we have costed. We know that the local authorities who are responsible for social care need around £200 million just to stand still. That's a deficit they're projecting in terms of social care. We want to go for more. We want a much better enhanced social care service. And you'll know, and you've heard it from me, and I'll say it again, if the money isn't there from Westminster, if the money isn't there in the Senate budget, we will be absolutely frank and honest with you. We need to put up taxes by a penny in order...
How much would that raise?
£370 million. So straight away, we've addressed the £200 million deficit, and we've got additional money to enhance our social care services, to pay our carers better, to ensure they're looked after, and we want a Royal College of Carers to make sure that they are really looked after and protected.
OK, Dan Thomas for Reform UK.
Spike, thank you for your service, and I know how important veterans, the role they play in community groups and obviously once they're discharged, and I also know what the struggle many veterans have when they're discharged from the armed forces, that transition to civilian life. I'm very supportive of the Armed Forces Covenant. As a former council leader, I made sure that my council was signed up to that. I would renew that Armed Forces Covenant across all Welsh government departments and check that all local authorities have too. And in that covenant, there are safeguards and advantages that veterans should be taking advantage of and prioritising because of the service that you gave to this country. And not just you, but your family whilst you were posted away. So really, I want to up the focus on supporting veterans. On the NHS and your waiting time and the fact you had to go private. Private practice, there are consultants who are doing both, obviously, NHS and private practice, and I want to be careful here not to over-solutionise as a politician, because I really worry about politicians.
You just created a new verb there.
I'm trying to micromanage the public services. I think it's dangerous. We need people who know about medical procedures and running hospitals to run them properly. That's where we're coming from. But I'll start off first with that there is capacity there. There are surgeons and consultants who are doing lots of private work, and we need to renegotiate those contracts so they do more NHS work. And we need to speak to some of the health boards with capacity in England to see if we can up the operations being transferred there. So there is room for us to make more efficiencies.
That have capacity? If there were, surely England wouldn't have
you
waiting
mentioned their waiting lists are shorter. You mentioned their waiting lists are short, and they also have private.
Still
there are private practice in that there are private theatres that are left empty. So we need to have a grown-up conversation with the private sector and the consultants who work in them. Bearing in mind, most of them work within the NHS. Look at that contract and see, right, can we up it? Those health boards that have turned this around in England, they have had this talk, and they've also found some consultants could be a bit more productive than they are now, and some of them weren't working to contract as they should be. So if you, West Herts is one of them. So we need to look at productivity within the NHS. In terms of funding, we would straight away stop spending £9 million on the overseas affairs budget. I know that's not that by it's called by Labour a drop in the ocean, but it would actually pay for 150 nurses, for example. You could or quite a lot of operations, and there is at least 20 to 30 million pounds to be saved by reducing the reliance on agency nurses and moving them to directly employed.
Ellen, I've left you till last on this because I wanted you to pick up one or two of the points that they've made, but just in answer to Spike, first of all.
Spike, it's good to hear from you, and lovely that you live in such a beautiful part of the country. I'm sorry to hear that you've suffered the way you have. I don't know when it was that you went through this, but I would assure you that things have improved dramatically recently.
Well, no, he's been waiting like now. He said he was quoted, what was it, December 2028?
So we've brought waiting lists down quite dramatically in the past few months. We've had to contend with austerity for a very long time. The taps have now been turned on, and that is making a difference. For 9 months, we've seen those waiting lists come down. The average wait in Wales now is 16 weeks. There's a particular challenge with orthopaedics, and obviously that's the condition that he's concerned with. But what we've done is we've opened new surgical hubs. So there's one in Neath, for example.
Long way from
Neath Talbot. Well, the point is we're trying to concentrate. But we do have to concentrate experts in a particular place, and that's what's happened. Is the health board there is working now with Swansea, and they're really tearing through the numbers much quicker. There's going to be more support in Withybush Hospital for orthopaedic support. There's a new hub being opened in North Wales, in Llandudno, and it's trying to separate out emergency from planned care is really critical. That's much easier to do in England, where you have big cities. We're quite spread out in Wales, and that does make a difference. We are proposing 3 new hospitals in Wales. None of the other parties are suggesting that, because we've had, for a long time...
Have you got funding for them?
We have. We will have to borrow some of the money, but there is more capital funding coming in. We haven't seen that for a number of years. And that is part of the issue in terms of efficiency. How do you get efficiency into the NHS? Part of the answer is you need a capital injection, and we've been starved of capital funding
Ian,
for a very long time.
Ian, the state of the estate of the NHS in Wales is because of Labour policies over 27 years in allowing the degradation of our hospitals and leaving them in a state now where there's £1 billion backlog. Nobody believes Labour anymore on the NHS. They don't trust reform.
Plaid have left them off the hook. You've let them off. You've been a weak opposition, Green, and you've let Labour off the hook.
Right, let Eleanor come
For
back.
years, we had to contend with austerity. We've improved the number of people working in the NHS. We've seen a 12% increase in the past 5 years alone, and that is making a difference. If you just look at the number of cataract operations we've got through recently, it's gone from 17,000 to 44,000. That's a huge increase. There is an expectation of efficiency, but the others are suggesting, there's this new idea. How about moving things into community care? We're doing this already. Our pharmacies are doing a lot more than they are in England.
We could spend the rest of the debate on the NHS. We're already 7 minutes past where I wanted to be in this debate on this subject.
I just wanted to say,
20 seconds.
The pigeons are coming home to roost, literally, in some of our hospitals at the moment, and it's because Labour has taken this decision to close hospitals across the country, community hospitals, and that was before there was a Conservative government.
We're just going to open 3 new hospitals if we get re-elected. None of the rest of you are offering that.
We do have to go to the news because it's a very important day. You'll all have seen the recent developments. We do need to get the news headlines rather late at 7:37.
The UK terror threat level's been raised to severe following the Golders Green stabbings. It means an attack is deemed highly likely. Earlier, Sir Keir Starmer urged people to open their eyes about anti-Semitism in Britain and promised to fight hatred. One of the victims of the Golders Green knife attacks has said freedom of speech has got a limit when asked about pro-Palestine marches that are accused of containing anti-Semitic elements. The police say they're keeping an open mind after a fire broke out at a house in Stamford Hill, another area of North London with a large Jewish population. In other news, the Bank of England held its interest rate at 3.75%, but warned of a worst-case scenario where inflation surges. And Donald Trump says he'll keep a Royal Navy bell gifted by the King in the Oval Office as the Royals' state visit enters its final hours. LBC weather, some rain in the southwest, otherwise clear tonight, lows of 3.
This is LBC.
If you bought a home on a holiday park in the UK, what you thought you were getting may not be what you ended up with. From unexpected site fee increases, running costs, a huge depreciation in value, many owners feel they've been missold. If you think this might be you, holidayparkadvicecentre.co.uk could help you receive the compensation you're entitled to. Text ASSIST to 78900 to find out more. That's ASSIST to 78900.
Oh, you want weight loss advice?
Weight loss? Actually, what you want to do is...
I got my weight loss secret from my mother, who got it from her mother's
My
mother.
tip weight loss?
Forget that, you just keep dancing. Dragon fruit.
Podcast.
Advice.
Or you could go to MedExpress. MedExpress. Healthcare without the noise. Go to medexpress.co.uk/weight loss.
Ali 60mg hard capsules contain orlistat for overweight adults with a BMI of 28+. Follow a reduced calorie, low fat diet. Always read the label.
Calling all young creatives. Kickstart your career in media. Apply now and join us in years 10 or 12 at Global Academy. globalacademy.com.
Find me somebody to love.
This spring, dreams are stamping down on price. Are you beds all set?
We're built for this.
There's up to 40% off a range of stylish beds and comfy mattresses.
But don't hang about. You snooze, you lose.
Dreams. Love your bed.
Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
7:39 on LBC. Let me reintroduce you to our 6 Welsh Party leaders. Elendin Morgan is leader of the Labour Party in Wales, currently serving as First Minister. Darren Millar, leader of the Conservatives. Anthony Slaughter, leader of the Green Party of Wales. Rhyn ap Iorwerth is the leader of Plaid Cymru. Dan Thomas is the leader of Reform UK Wales. And Jane Dodds is the leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats. Right, we have Katie in Ceredigion on the line. Hello, Katie.
Hi there, you okay?
Very good, thank you. What would you like to ask?
As a bit of background, myself and my partner, we both work full-time. We have three girls, and we live in Ceredigion. Despite both of us working full-time, we still need to claim universal credit to manage with the cost of living. And we have looked at other employment, other roles. There's not a huge amount of employment available in Ceredigion. And I have had education to university level and a postgraduate course. Despite that, we're both working full-time, supporting our children. I've even taken a part-time job before we had our twins most recently. And despite the fact they're in full-time school now, so we're not paying childcare anymore, we still have to claim universal credit as a working family. Yeah. And I feel that being in the labour market doesn't really guarantee financial security at the moment. And the question I wanted to ask was, I feel that the reliance of working households on benefits, it's a sign that wages are structurally just behind the cost of living. And what are government plans to address that? Because there is a stigma associated with claiming benefits. There shouldn't be, but there is. I would rather not if wages would mean that I wouldn't have to.
So basically, what will your parties do to ease the cost of living for families like Katie's? Jane Dodds for the Liberal Democrats, let's start with you.
Well, Katie, thanks very much. And I also live in a very rural area, just like Ceredigion is, and I know that the wages are incredibly low in our rural areas, with very little opportunity, actually, in order to get other highly paid and well-skilled jobs as well. So what we need to do is to get those skilled jobs into rural areas, and they need to be better paid, of course. But we also need to look at free childcare, and it's something that I know some of the political parties here are going to commit to, and I would join them in that, because that's going to help our working families. We also need to make sure that we look after our parents and carers and make sure that they get the access to skills and training going forward. And we want to see that happen all over Wales, but particularly in rural areas.
But Jane, you want to put
this
people's
Darren Millar.
You want to put people's taxes up. You just told us earlier on, didn't you? That's not going to help people with the cost of living, is it?
The 1p on income tax is going to be ring-fenced for social care, and we are already paying for the fact that our services, particularly our health service, is having to stretch itself to have the operations that we talked about earlier. We're paying increased council tax as well, which meets the needs of social care. So actually, if we ring-fence our funding for social care, that's going to help us all in the long term.
Darren?
I think the big problem in our country is taxes are too high. We need to get the economy going. We need to put more money back into people's pockets. I mean, I think it's a dreadful situation when people are in full-time work and having to claim benefits. We need to be able to eradicate that. So if we can get more people more money back into people's pockets, and that's what our plans are, is to cut a penny off income tax, put about £450 back into
Interest
the pockets
rates went through the roof when Truss was in power.
Of Katie and her family. And then if we have a situation where we can cap council tax as well, as many of your listeners in England will have reaped the benefits of.
Could I ask the question
that would then help
that you've not
the
answered
cost of living,
week,
because council
Darren.
tax, people in Wales pay more in council tax as a proportion of their income than they do over the border, and we're a poorer country. That's not right.
Could I ask a question that you've not answered in any of the debates? Which services that some of the most vulnerable people in Wales depend on are you going to cut?
What we're going to cut are £20 million worth of spending on extra politicians.
That won't cost, that
150
won't cover
million
half
extra.
A day's work in the NHS. Won't cover half a day.
£150 million worth of additional bureaucrats and bureaucracy costs that your government, Iain Ed, has put in place just over the last 3 years. We're going to roll that back to 3 years ago. And we're going to make sure that we're not spending money on tree planting in Uganda and solar-powered canoes in the Amazon. These are things that the Welsh Government is not even responsible for international development, and yet It's wasting money, frittering taxpayers' money away.
A load of
it's
nonsense.
easy for governments to spend other people's money. I want to give that money back to the public because they're better at spending it.
Look, it costs about £40 million a day to run the NHS. So to suggest that you're going to fix all of these problems with tiny, tiny amounts that are going to things that we're very, very proud that we've initiated in the Welsh Government. And I think it's right. You know, nobody likes more politicians, but the fact is
You're spending on them.
But the fact is that Darren, that our
Senate
Senate didn't function properly. We simply didn't have enough people to do the job.
That's your excuse. Again, you're passing the buck, making excuses as to why your government hasn't performed.
The issue that we're being
blaming
asked
on the
about
Senate.
by Katie is about cost of living. And I do think that people are really feeling challenged. They're feeling the squeeze, particularly in relation to energy costs. And we ain't seen nothing yet. If this war in the Middle East keeps going, then that is going to be even more difficult for people. And that's why one of the key things that I'm interested in is, one, to make sure people like Katie have got jobs in the first place. And you've seen that our unemployment rates in Wales are lower than those of the rest of the United Kingdom. But also we want to develop an energy-independent Wales. So we're not going to be thrown about by the whims of what's happening elsewhere in the country. We're going to introduce a £2 cap for buses, and we're going to have 100 new routes so that places like where Katie lives in Ceredigion will also benefit. Can I also just mention childcare? So childcare, there's lots of offers being made on childcare, particularly the eye-watering some of them that are being offered by Plaid Cymru. What they're not telling you is what they would have to cut in order to afford that. But you're the same, Darren. There's a whole load of things. And if you just think about the public sector workforce have no assurance that they will see a pay rise in future years. And I think that is a real danger to the 360,000 people who work in our public services, the services that we all rely on. And I think there's a real tension and possibility that we'll see industrial action as a result of people not planning for good government. We've always balanced the budget in Wales.
Labour have been in power for the last 27 years in Wales. I mean, you've got to take responsibility for that yourself, surely.
Yeah, we will, and we've always balanced the budget. And we've always paid an increase to our public sector workers.
But none
of these can give you that assurance because they're making all kinds of promises and not telling you where the cuts are going.
Between Labour and the Conservatives, Labour and the Conservatives have flip-flopped out of power for the last 20, 30 years, UK-wide, and obviously last 27 years.
You were
in the
one
Senate.
of them.
And I am the leader of the Reform, Green. I am the leader of
You're
the
a
Reform.
Conservative councillor. It's a big problem for Reform when people have realised that you're basically the Tories.
We have 96 candidates from all different backgrounds.
Many Tories.
But
many Tories.
Most of them are not, actually.
Well, what about your two Senate members, both ex-Tories?
I know you're sliding in the polls, and this is because of your angry interruptions in these debates. And that's why you're sliding in the polls, Reid. So I would
seem very angry to me.
Well, you should watch the others.
I have.
But look, you're both to blame for house prices skyrocketing, energy costs skyrocketing. There's been no long-term planning for this country for those main costs of living, and it's going to take a while to undo them. And chipping away around the sides isn't going to stop it. Unfortunately, we need a long-term plan to build more houses, get the cost of housing down, and to get energy security sorted out so our energy is reduced. We can help around the edges with income tax cut, for instance. That's what Reform. We can stop councils ripping off their residents.
Same as the Tories,
well.
Rather proving Eleanor's point.
Well,
exactly. They're the same people. You've got the same manifesto. It's almost identical. You might as well. You've just changed the badge.
Okay. We've gone 48 minutes, and this is the first time I've had to upbraid you for all talking at once. Dan, would you like to complete your answer, and then we'll come to Irene?
So we need a long-term energy security plan for this country. We also need a long-term house building plan, because those are the reasons, those are the main cost of living pressures. And I feel, the lady who answered the question, I feel her pain. As a father of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, I absolutely know where she's coming from. There used to be a time when a family such as yours was able to have one income earner and one person raising the children. And I would like to see us in time get back to that situation. And that's where we should go longer term, and that's paternity and maternity rights as well.
Right, definitely not angry, Irene.
Yeah, no, I'll very angrily remind Dan Thomas again that as a Conservative councillor, he put down a motion to Barnet Council heaping praise on Liz Truss and her disastrous mini-budget. You know,
Well, I froze and cut council tax as a council leader, and like Plaid Cymru Council.
Let's stick to Katie's question.
Yeah. So, and Katie, thank you very much for your question. And it's an experience that we hear so often on the doorstep in this election. It's in-work poverty or in-work financial stresses. There are a number of things that I could point to. On jobs, seeing as you specifically spoke about the need for good jobs, the development agency that Plaid Cymru want to bring in will have specifically within its remit the need to spread jobs and good jobs throughout Wales. We can't have some areas overheated. Every single part of Wales is as important as the next.
How much will that Quango cost?
This isn't about additional money. This is taking out of government directly, which I think is something that you support.
No, we don't want
this is allowing businesses to be agile and fleet of foot in taking decisions to encourage economic growth and prosperity in Wales. I think that's a really good thing that has been very, very warmly welcomed by businesses and people who want to benefit from the jobs that it would create.
But you haven't got any money to put into it because you've spent all the money. The budget's gone.
And then you have...
Are you going to publish your budget?
You have an incredibly unambitious set of numbers that you publish today, which you claim
Well,
is
you're not
is
publishing anything. You're not publishing anything. You're not telling the people of Wales what you're going to cut.
This is a desperate Labour government who put out this gimmick today that we can
it's
go into.
It's not a gimmick. Where's your costings?
Well, let's come back to Katie's question.
Well, actually, hang on a second, because just on that, it does seem, as somebody who doesn't live in Wales, but I do follow Welsh policy, it does seem incredible to me that Labour is the only party, very late in the day it has to be said, but they have done it, they've published the costings of their manifesto.
They haven't.
None of the rest of you have.
They've published something they call a costings document, but it's not a costings
Where's
document.
yours? Where is your equivalent to what we publish? Where is it?
I've spoken this evening about a number of our key areas.
Yeah, we want to see it all in one place.
Now about the help for Katie.
Will you publish the full costings?
We can...
Because, I mean, you could be First Minister in a week's time, and yet you haven't published the full costings, have you?
So this is about putting together a programme for government that we want to be scrutinised on, not on how much...
But you can't scrutinise unless we know what your plans are, and you have plans for plans.
It's up to the people of Wales to judge who has that achievable programme for government. What we did is we took our figures to Wales's foremost economist.
We haven't seen them.
Came back and
we haven't seen
these
them.
These are challenging, but these are achievable. You look at how a government performs.
But I think I'm right in saying the Institute for Fiscal Studies has said today that they don't believe the figures.
And neither do they believe those of reform either. I mean, these people are selling you.
If you publish your costings, we'll publish ours. Let's publish them together tomorrow.
That's not an answer. That is not an answer, Dan. Why don't you publish yours anyway?
Because I'm not doing the maths. I've been in finance for 20 years, and I'm not doing the maths for their party.
Dan Thomas thinks for a second that Plaid Cymru wants to steal reform's plans. Goodness.
But you've got no funding, so funding plans, so you may as well copy ours.
But Dan, this is a ridiculous argument to say, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. It's like as soon as I used to do that as a 5-year-old.
No, listen, Ian, it's a fair point.
Could I respectfully come back to Katie's question?
Yeah, let's hear from Anthony.
I mean, we've just seen why people are so disillusioned with politics in this country here. We've got two parties on this panel talking about cutting taxes, parties that represent millionaires and billionaires and vested interests. Still no answer on what services they'd cut. Then we've got a Labour government.
Gave you a list of
we've got a
things.
Labour. Can I speak, please?
They're tiny.
We've got a Labour government that's been in power in one shape or form for 27 years and managed decline. Shocking statistics: 1 in 3 children in Wales growing up in poverty. The most nature-degraded country on these islands. Now, I identify with Katie. I've been in Katie's situation, and it shouldn't be like that. So we've got some immediate measures to tackle the cost of living crisis, the things that really affect people: freezing rents. Rents are out of control in Wales. Ultimately, bringing in rent controls. Scrapping the very, very unfair council tax for a land value tax, which it's redistributive, it makes the wealthier pay more. Bringing in free bus travel for under 22s and a £1 ticket for everyone else. We also need to address the jobs issue, and that's where the green industrial revolution comes in. There are billions of pounds waiting outside Wales to be invested in renewable energy.
You'd ruin Mid-Wales. You'd ruin Mid-Wales with an industrialised landscape full of wind turbines and solar panels. It would be unproductive then from a food security point of view. It would be an absolute disaster for our country.
I'll tell you what's a disaster for our country is what's going on in the Middle East and the fact that everybody's energy prices are rocketing.
So why don't you call for the Chancellor to scrap the 5p increase in
I want to develop an energy-independent Wales, and just to come back to...
We have made a few minutes up on our time, but we're still running behind time.
Can I just answer one issue on Katie? Really. She gets free school meals for her children.
Thanks to Plaid Cymru. Labour voted against it time and time
did not support the budget.
You
did not support the budget. Free school meals, and I hope she gets access to help
Katie,
to buy
Thank
school uniforms
you for
as well.
your call. Let's move on to Michael in Barry. Michael, hello.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. What would you like to ask?
I want to speak about the 20-mile-an-hour limit, if that's okay.
Yep.
Now, initially, I was dead against it. I'd spent the last 26 years driving 30 mile an hour quite comfortably. And then we moved to 20 mile an hour. It was a bit of a challenge. 26 years, I did get caught. No driving, never been caught speeding before. I'm quite a sensible driver, 26 miles under 30. But you know what? The living experience, it was easy. I've got much bigger things to worry about. Not only that, walking my children to school, knowing that if we cross a road, they were safer. And if they were a bit daft, because kids can be daft, and they dart across the road, do you know what? They're safer. So it did change my mind. And in my view, and I think I'd like to think in everybody on the panel's view, when a government's first duty is protecting people. And if that's the case, why is reversing it become such a political obsession in Wales when we've got much bigger challenges like the NHS, housing and economic growth?
Right. Which of you, put your hands up, are against the 20-mile-an-hour limits? Darren?
Absolutely.
Dan?
I campaigned for years for it on the national campaign.
Right, well, I want literally 30 seconds from each of you on this.
So the cost of implementing this policy was in excess of 30 million quid. And I think that money could have been better spent at a targeted approach to 20 mile an hour around schools, play areas, accident hotspots, and then investing the rest of the money into our NHS in order to save lives. I think that would have been a better solution. And what we do know is from the Welsh Government's own figures, that this is costing our economy hundreds of millions of pounds every year.
That's just nonsense.
How many
Where's
lives?
your evidence for that?
It's in the Welsh government's. It was in the Welsh government's own document proposed. It was in the Welsh government's own explanatory memorandum, as you well know. The issue here is that there's an opportunity cost, there's an economic cost, and that means that you can't then invest in things like your NHS, which also saves lives, and you can still save many lives with a targeted approach.
Anthony, you said you campaigned for this.
I campaigned for this locally and then nationally across Wales, and it was one of the things that I give the Welsh Government credit for. It was something that was needed. The science is absolutely clear. Less people have died since we've had it for over a year, so the statistics are there. Of course, an anti-science party like Darren's won't look at the figures. There are people alive now who wouldn't have been alive.
You want to reduce it to 10 miles an hour?
You keep bringing up this nonsense.
But you do, that's your party policy.
It is not our party policy.
It is your party policy.
It is not.
Is it Green Party policy?
No.
In the United Kingdom? No. To have 10 mile an hour speed limits?
No, it's not.
And why is it in your policy documents on the UK
it's
Green
not.
Party website?
Show it to me.
It's in your Green Party policy
Show it to me.
documents. And you want to reduce the,
can I get back to the
national speed limit.
This is turning into...
You've already had more than 30 seconds. Look, I'm getting quite a few messages asking you to stop shouting over each other. Our listeners are telling us it's not reflecting particularly well on any of you. To be fair to Jane, I think she hasn't done it, so I'm excluding her. In fact, let's go to Jane on this.
Thank you, and thank you, Michael. It's great to hear your point of view. I voted for this policy because if it saved one life, then it was worth it. And the data and the evidence shows that it's saved about 100 lives and 700 lives have not been affected by serious injury. And that we've been talking about a health service and how we want to protect it. And straight away, you've got an answer as well as people's lives not being affected. And to hear Reform UK and Conservatives say that they want to ban it and they want to stop it, I feel is really sad, because the data is there. Their arguments are not evidence-based, and I thank you for phoning in with that point of view, because not many people have done, so thank you very much.
Dan.
The data is flawed. There's more deaths per population in Wales than England, and England doesn't have this kind of approach. We're in favour of 20 mile an hour around schools, hospitals, playgrounds, and that generally is the case. And let's not forget that almost 500,000 people signed a petition against opposing this, and that was more people than voted Labour at the last Senedd election. So there's a democratic
15 people turned up to the rally after that.
And with the stats, coming back to the stats, you need long-term stats to look at something like this, and you don't know the reason for... And every death is a tragedy, but we do not know the reason behind the stats. You could drop it to 10 mile an hour and argue it will save more lives. Where do we draw the line? We think 30.
Yep, supportive of it. I think it was done very badly by Labour. They were unclear on how many exemptions there should be. There was lack of consistency. There were unreasonable places. Well, we put down a motion saying you need to review it because there were places where 20s had come in unreasonably, like an industrial estate in my constituency. see many of those have been changed now. So it was a lesson on how government should not do things, but as a policy, I support it.
It was the right policy. I think we probably could have done better in terms of how we introduced it. But the key thing, and I'm very aware that there are listeners here who might not understand how it works in Wales. It's not true that you have to travel 20 miles an hour across the whole of Wales. You know, I travel from Pembrokeshire to Cardiff every week. That's 100 miles. There are 2 tiny villages that I go through on the whole of that distance where you have to go at 20 miles an hour. So I do think that this is an issue that has not just saved lives, it has saved a lot of injuries, it's saved money for the NHS, and it's also saved people on their insurance premiums.
Well, there are dual carriageways in London that have 20-mile-an-hour limits, so maybe we should start there.
And I believe we're to congratulate a Reform-led Kent Council for the introduction of 20 mile per hour.
Oh, don't get him started.
These silly rumours that go around.
Right, we have half an hour more with our panellists. Lots of questions to come on various different subjects. But first, let's get the news headlines at 8 o'clock.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the UK terror threat level has been raised to severe from substantial following the terror attack in Golders Green yesterday. The new status means an attack is highly likely in the next 6 months. It's the second highest status out of a possible 5 levels. Here's Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor.
The UK has been experiencing a gradual increase in terrorist threats for some time, driven by a rise in both Islamist and extreme right-wing terrorism. Our casework is increasing across a number of ideologies, and within that, we are seeing an elevated threat to Jewish and Israeli individuals and institutions in the UK.
Earlier, the Prime Minister was heckled as he visited Golders Green. Sir Keir Starmer's been told he needs to stop ignoring what's happening on the streets. The PM's promised to fight hatred. The Bank of England's held interest rates at 3.75%. It's also warned a worst-case scenario where inflation could reach 6.2%. And Donald Trump says the US will remove tariffs on Scottish whisky in honour of the King and Queen. The Royals have finished their US visit and move on to Bermuda tonight. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed at 148 points at 10,361. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather, some rain in the southwest, South Wales and Northern Ireland tonight. Otherwise clear, lows of 3 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Nearly didn't get back on air then. Right, it's 3 minutes past 8 on LBC. If you've just tuned in, we're in the middle of a debate with 6 party leaders in Wales. They are, for Labour, Eluned Morgan, Darren Miller for the Conservatives, Anthony Slaughter for the Greens, Jane Dodds from the Liberal Democrats, Dan Thomas from Reform UK, and Reen Op-Urath, who is from Plaid Cymru. Right, a caller, Rachel in Newport, has a question. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Ian. Hi, panel. Hi, my question is, as a Dŵr Cymru customer, I am deeply concerned that such a valuable commodity, one that we need for our very existence, is being so poorly managed. We hear endless reports of pollution, and each year the price continues to rise. What are the parties prepared to do to show the people in Wales that they care about such an important, vital resource for both ourselves, our wildlife, and their habitat?
Reen.
Water, good evening to you, Rachel. Thanks for the question. Water is more than just something that comes out of the tap for us in Wales. Yes, it's a service. It's the key to life, but it's also emotive. And here we are with plenty of water in Wales. We should say with some of the highest bills. It is not acceptable, and unacceptable levels of pollution too. We are clear that we should take control of water in Wales in our manifesto, and if we come come into government, we want to move towards having control of water, get it devolved. It has been possible for the Labour government to seek the devolution of powers over water. That hasn't happened. We want to push that forward, so we do have control over water. To do what? In order to make sure that we start to find ways of bringing bills down, limit executive pay, which is something that really, really worries people about water.
But that's just gratuitous, isn't it? I mean, that might knock a pound off a bill.
No, I believe in the nationalisation of water. I think
that's
water.
£7.5 billion it would cost for Welsh water.
So
that's half the budget of the NHS.
Yes,
and you and the Greens want to do that. Look, we'd all love to do it. But let's get real, Reen. That's not going to happen unless you shut down half the NHS.
You look very angry now. What I said was we're going to seek the devolution, not the nationalisation. What I said is I believe that it should be nationalised. It's not something they're able to do at this point.
If they haven't devolved it, I mean, they've only been in power 2 years, but if they haven't devolved it now, they're not going to do it for you, are they?
I think we can request this under legislation.
But they'll say no.
We can make it happen. Well, no, the legislation allows it to happen. You ask for that to happen. You say the legislation is already in place.
But they don't have to say yes.
To make it happen. Well, the legislation says it has to happen, but it's got to be a request from Welsh Government for it to happen. It's not like asking for fair funding and them saying no. Legislation allows for Welsh Government to call it in.
But it would still cost you this huge amount of money, wouldn't it?
No, that's nationalisation. Lynette Morgan was talking about. We want it to be devolved. Nationalisation is something that we should aspire to.
But what control could you have over it if it was devolved?
Oh, there are a host of things that we could start to do in aligning our needs around water, making sure that we start to build a plan to bring bills down over time. Executive pay is a part of that. But this is something, as I say, that's more than just something wet that comes out of the tap.
Ellen.
This is emotive to us in Wales.
Look, a lot of these parties talk the talk when it comes to wanting to see clean water, but we tried to we introduced a law to stop agricultural pollution from infecting our watercourses, and the Tories, Plaid Cymru, voted against that. And that is having an impact on our water, and we're dead serious about going further when it comes to cleaning up our rivers and seas. We would introduce a clean water bill. We would strengthen, we would have a regulator in Wales, and we would give more money for prosecution. I think that is essential, recognising that agricultural pollution is a serious problem in Wales still, despite the fact that we've brought in some of those regulations. But on top of that, I think is absolutely right that Welsh Water was fined quite a lot of money recently because they're not doing their job.
Anthony Slaughter for the Greens.
That's a good point to start, because they were recently fined 44.4 million for poor behaviour. We have the worst rivers and coastline for pollution in the UK. Again, a disgrace. Our rivers are full of sewage. And people are paying some of the highest water bills in the UK here in Wales. And what people don't realise is 40% of their bill is paying off debt. So we agree that Dŵr Cymru needs to be brought back into genuine public ownership. And Reen's right, you don't need to find all that money. Another mechanism for doing it...
Well, how do you do it?
A mechanism that can do, and this does take work with Westminster, but they can have their licence revoked. And if any organisation deserved to have their licence revoked, it would be them. And then you start from scratch and build a genuinely publicly owned one.
So you basically bankrupt a company?
It's not bankrupting them. They are operating on debt.
And who's going to run it?
Better people than run it now. Better people than the overpaid people now.
Well, who are they? Oh, you want civil servants to run it with no experience?
No, you get the right people, and then comes back to why doesn't Wales have these controls? Because I sometimes get frustrated with colleagues in England at Westminster, because it's sold to the world as a not-for-profit arm's length company.
Darren?
Yeah, look, it is a disgrace that we've got the dirtiest waterways in the UK. That's on the Labour Party's watch.
And I know
that you love to blame everybody else, especially our farmers.
You voted against
because you're an anti-rural Wales party. That's what you're like.
Hang on, Ellen represents a rural area.
Well, why doesn't she speak to her farmers and see what they think about the natural resources?
Why don't I speak to the other people in my communities who are really concerned about the quality of water?
They are very concerned, and they're very, very concerned. And that's why I support legislation to clean up our rivers.
Well, you didn't.
One of the things which I disagree with you on, though, is this ridiculous all Wales situation when it comes to water regulations. That's what we voted against. And if I can get back to the question, We do need to have a much more effective regulator. Natural Resources Wales has been absolutely dreadful. It's not fit for purpose. It doesn't work properly. That's our equivalent of the Environment Agency, for those of your listeners who are from England. And it hasn't done a very good job.
But you've got somebody who used to run the Welsh Environment Agency, Sir James Bevan, who's a board member of Welsh Water. Now, people are saying he should lose his role on the board because of that record that you've just articulated. Should he? And should he lose his knighthood, for that matter?
I don't know sufficiently as much of his CV detail as you do.
I'm an expert.
But what I will say is Natural Resources Wales, as the regulator, in terms of the pollution, has not done a very good job.
Right.
And that is fundamentally the problem.
Jane?
I think we all need to work together on this. We all want clean water. There's no disagreements here. And thank you, Rachel, for the question, because surely we've got good ideas across all of the political parties here, which actually could transform our water here in Wales. I believe in a clean water bill as well. I believe the polluter should absolutely have to pay. I do not believe in blaming an industry. This is not about blame. This is about us coming together and actually trying to make sure that Dŵr Cymru, which is one of the worst performing water boards in the whole of the UK, actually performs better and performs for us, because our water, our rivers and our beaches are absolutely essential for our nature. If we look after our water and our rivers and our nature, then they will look after us.
Dan, could you be very brief?
Our manifesto commits to a Wales Rivers Act, a Wales Rivers Bill that will set very high expectations and standards and consequences for polluters as well. We also got some money set aside for putting more money into tip and remedial work, because there's a lot of metal from our mining legacy. There's metals going into the water that we need to work on that as well. But Natural Resources Wales, it's too big. And I think it needs to be abolished, and those functions roll back into government, so that ministers have ministerial authority over those functions. And that's part of the problem. Government in Wales is too fragmented between your government ministries and then all these quangos that are meant to be doing a job and quite clearly not. So that's how the reform would approach it.
Right, let's move on to another subject, important one. James is in Cardiff. Now, James, you were the person that tweeted me this morning, weren't you?
I was, yes. Thank you.
So what's your curveball question then?
So as a business owner, I'm often thinking about the next generation of school leavers and how work ready they are. But with Wales having the worst PISA scores in the UK and pupil behaviour and attendance rates becoming a well-documented problem, my question to the panel is this. What is the one tough and potentially unpopular decision your party would make to turn this around?
Anthony Slaughter for the Greens.
Good question, thank you. And I don't think what we're proposing for education would be unpopular. We're looking at how people are taught. I mean, firstly, we have to address the school estate. People have been taught in crumbling buildings. And it comes back to the cost of living thing as well. If you're living in damp, mouldy homes and your parents can't afford to heat you, no reform to the education system is going to make your life better. So you've got to start from the basics, but then you look at making learning more fun, more nature-based, and teaching people things they need to know. And I got challenged on this by someone in your position the other day said, what's more important, Anthony, learning to read or having fun? Learning to read should be fun. So we need to look at the fundamentals of that. We need to pay the staff fairly so they can do the job that they're also dedicated to. We need to look at expanding further and higher education, something that's very popular in nothing.
Sorry, you're not answering the question. Anthony wanted to know, James wanted to know something unpopular. You've come out with a list there of things that obviously are going to be popular.
Well, something that there might be some pushback to from in the sector, which I think would help where James is coming from with the question, is introducing degree apprenticeships. Getting people the education they want for the careers they want, the small businesses and small enterprises they want to be in. But I really can't think of anything about our education proposals that's unpopular. They're all things that need to happen.
Well, how about you say that children shouldn't be going to school in nappies, that teachers shouldn't have to be changing nappies, that teachers shouldn't have to be teaching 5-year-olds how to brush their teeth? I mean, that might not be popular with some people.
It comes right back to my original premise. If people are living in very, very lives of hardship.
That's no excuse. Hardship is not an excuse for not parenting your children properly.
You've got to take people's whole life picture into account. If they work in precarious gig economies for less than the minimum wage, They're worried about bailiffs knocking on the door every day.
They still know as a parent that they have to teach their children the basics of childhood, and part of that is teaching them how to brush their teeth
And then they need
wash,
to. So
change their nappies.
people living challenged lives need to be helped to do that. Then it's not saying it's acceptable.
And that's where we need more health visitors. In our manifesto, the Reform Manifesto, we have a commitment for more health visitors to help with these things, to help parents.
How much is that costing?
It's amongst a package of measures that would cost £70 million for and it'd be part of the NHS. So for parents of young children, but it's just a part of that. And we do have a problem in Wales with the lack of health visitors in rural parts. But health visitors should be there to also support parents with things such as toilet training and nappies. And I've got written down, actually, these are unpopular things, but we need to back our teachers. I've got discipline, I've got nappies, and I've got parental responsibilities. Because there's a small number of students who are disruptive in class, and teachers feel powerless to tackle them because they worry that there's going to be an angry parent at the school gate at closing time, and they've got no empower there. And this is where something teachers, and certainly head teachers, are asking. We need either a county-wide or Wales-wide approach to these very difficult issues, and also with mobile phones as well disrupting classes. So I think we need to speak to the teachers' unions and to the teachers directly and say, look, what key things can we bring in across Wales that will really make your lives easier? There's other things as well about making the curriculum a little bit easier. If teachers want to focus on the 3 R's and spend some time on the basics, I think they believe they haven't got time.
You want to make the curriculum easier?
Well, not easier in terms of easier to teach. So the new curriculum that's been rolled out, head teachers are having people go round to tell them what the curriculum, and explain what the curriculum is, and they're a little bit. Some of them are a little bit worried about sort of asking questions because they might seem to not understand it, but it's because it's too complex and too varied. So that's Reform's approach to
Jane?
education.
For 25 years, I was a child protection social worker, and I came into politics in order to fix child poverty. I think it is really unpopular to think that we need to look at the life of a child and a young person the whole way through. So we need to start with those early years and the intervention that's needed to help those families. There are big challenges in our society around how we help those parents and carers, and we just can't just get away with saying we're blaming them and it's their responsibility. We have to help them and we have to give them the opportunities. But if you look at the whole way through, James, and I think your question was about how do you get people to be work ready, and that's really important. One of the things we want to do is have a 3-month kind of run-in for a young person when they're leaving school, a school leavers guarantee, which makes sure that they have a pathway to either work or further education or an apprenticeship, and they have the support to do that because that makes sure that they're ready for the next stage in their life.
Green.
Thanks for the question, James. Diolch yn fawr iawn. I try not to put a manifesto together that I think will be unpopular, but I absolutely understand what's behind the question there from James. And on being tough, which is what you're asking about, really, we are determined that we do need to find a better way of monitoring progress on the delivery of our foundational numeracy and literacy plan that is about stripping back to the basics, those fundamentals of preparing our young people to be able to reach their potential in education. But on the specific question on preparing people for work, we want that earlier opportunity for pupils to be able to identify vocational educational routes, I think, which is really important. But it's also about that readiness through the use of the Welsh Baccalaureate. I think there are more opportunities there to develop entrepreneurship, plus getting ready for the world as citizens, which absolutely has to include getting ready for the world of work.
Eleanor?
Well, we've got a very enhanced childcare programme in Wales. It's not just about childcare, but it offers parenting classes. It also offers speech therapy, and it offers health advice. So it is about helping not just the child, but also the parents to learn how to parent. Because you can't write these children off because their parents don't know how to do it. You've got to stand by them. This is our most valuable resource. Why wouldn't we invest in it? So that already that's being rolled out to 2-year-olds across Wales in a phased way. But just specifically on how do we get them work ready, what we're offering in this election is a youth guarantee. We already offer the youth guarantee from 16 to 24-year-olds. It's helped 60,000 young people. Our offer is now going from 14-year-olds. And the difference is here, and this, I don't think this will be really popular with teachers because this is about making sure that vocational education genuinely is seen on a par with academic qualifications. And I just think that there are people who are really skilled, but they're not comfortable in a classroom. And the other area that we're really focused on is additional learning needs. There are a lot of children who have those additional learning needs. One of our offers in this election is more pay for school support staff, because they're experienced, they're good, they're the people who really hold the hands of these children, but they're not paid throughout the year, and that is a commitment we make.
Why is it that for the 4 countries in the United Kingdom, Wales is at the bottom of the league table on PISA scores?
Well, I think you'll find in the next PISA, that was 4 years ago, we've changed the way that we teach now in schools. I'm very confident we'll be in a better place. Our GCSE results are better, and our A-level results are very good. So the things that people are scored upon and evaluated on are not PISA, they're actually the GCSEs and A-levels.
Darren?
We've got to make sure that teachers can teach and not have to be social workers, which I'm afraid is a large part of the problem, because we are reluctant to hold parents to account for their responsibilities as parents. And I completely agree, we need to make sure we've got access to parenting classes for those who need access to those, and we've made a commitment that there should be a universal offer of access to those. But we've got problems in our schools with behaviour, and we need to make sure that we stop mollycoddling our children and toughen up on discipline to get them to work and study hard. And what I would like to see is more Alan Ebenezer's in Wales. Now, Alan Ebenezer is the head teacher of Caldecott School, just down the road from here, and he's turned that school around with a tough discipline approach, and those kids are doing better as a result. They've just been taken out of special measures. We need more Alan Ebenezers in this world.
Yes, no answer on this one. I really mean that. Do you think that the government's consultation document is on the right steps to banning effectively mobile phones or smartphones for under 16s? Anthony?
I'd do a reserved no.
Yes, we need to ban them, and we need tough legislation to do that.
Eleanor?
My instinct is yes, but the consultation, we should know what we're heading into.
Reen?
I'd like to have more than one word, but I'd go with yes. I think there's a real opportunity to learn from what's happening in Australia now. Got to get it right, but something's not right now.
And you have had more than one word. Dan?
Yes, in schools, it's causing disruptiveness and it's causing loneliness in our young people.
Jane?
Yes, but we have to hold those media companies to account as well. It's both.
Right, let's move on to another question. This is from Jack in Tregaron. Have I pronounced that right? I hope I have, Jack. What would you like to ask?
Hello, good evening, to everyone. My question is regarding the Welsh language. Achieving the 1 million Welsh speakers target by 2050 is vital for the survival of our ancient language for the generations to come. However, the Welsh Labour government are far behind on reaching this target. In 2021, it was hoped they would achieve 600,000 speakers. This was not achieved. In fact, the number of speakers decreased to 538,000 speakers. Will the parties present agree that radical action must be taken in regard to Welsh language policy to ensure that we can reach this target?
I'm sure some of you will be tempted to answer in Welsh. Please resist that temptation for the purposes of the rest of our listeners. Right. Literally 30 seconds on this, please, because we're reaching the end, and I do want to get a very important question in as well. Dan, let's start with you.
Targets don't work. The National Centre for Learning Welsh says that the language is being taught to more and more adults, which is encouraging. We don't believe in targets, and there's the census figures that have it just over 500,000, and then there's the annual population survey that projects it could be 800,000 people actually speaking Welsh in Wales. So we need to get the figures right, but we don't believe target-based approach works. We need encouragement. I chose to learn Welsh at school when I was younger, and I think that's the right approach.
I think Reform's lack of understanding of how you support a language is really, really worrying and dangerous. We need political consensus around supporting the language, and there's been real growth in that. A target is important. It's because of political action that we're able to support this language. We're the only country in the world that can protect the Welsh language. We have to do so. Warm words aren't enough.
But is it, just to be controversial, seeing as we're near the end of the programme, coming into Cardiff Station today, all of the destinations schools, they're all in Welsh first and English second, which, I mean, given the number of people in South Wales who don't speak Welsh, I find that odd.
I don't. I mean, the growth in support for the Welsh language and use of the Welsh language in Cardiff has been remarkable in recent years. The Welsh language belongs to all of us, whether we speak it or not, and you're on the way to speaking it. Well done, Iain.
Yeah, not very far. Jane, you were shaking your head. I'm not sure about what I was saying or whether you disagree with the signage.
Well, I totally agree with the signage.
I've lost the audience, haven't I?
Noswaith Jack, and I absolutely want us to have more stretch targets on this. It's really important that we all reach and have an ambition in terms of the Welsh language. I want to normalise the Welsh language everywhere, and for people like Iain that arrive at Cardiff Station, that you see the Welsh names first and that you get the Welsh announcements first, and that may mean that you'll think,
oh, I didn't notice the announcements.
Great, I'll come back to Wales and I'll learn Welsh. We've got all sorts of ideas about how you increase the usage, but absolute commitments to seeing that happen.
Okay, Eleanor?
I went to a Welsh language school, and when I went there when I was around 6 years old, I had adults throwing stones at the bus. That was the animosity towards the Welsh language. I am so proud of what we've done.
That was in 1997, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly, not very long ago at all. But I think the attitude towards the language has been transformed under the Welsh Labour government. It was our commitment and target to set 1 million. Look, people like Dan have been out of the country for a long time. There has been a transformation. People are embracing the language. I'm not saying they're all going to learn it, but they do recognise it belongs to us all. And I think that is one of the proudest achievements of the Welsh Labour government. And the way people answer the question, Welsh language can be very, very formal. They're scared to tick a box in that consensus, which is why you get a very different answer in that annual population survey.
Darren?
I'm proud that Wales has got two languages, Welsh and English, and that people can use them freely. I'm afraid that one of the challenges we have is we're losing young people who are fluent in the language. They're going and leaving Wales because they want careers elsewhere and they can't get those careers here in Wales. That's something which is tragic, but it's true, and we've got to entice them back. We've also got to help people to learn the language that don't have the confidence as well to use the language in their everyday lives. And those opportunities they don't always feel are there. My Welsh is very ropey, right? I'm one of those many people in Wales who can understand a lot of Welsh, but is dreadful at stringing it together and feels even less confident about using it. So there are lots of people in that situation who I think with a bit of support, a bit of coaching, a bit of encouragement could actually use it much more.
Anthony?
I think, absolutely everyone on this table should be proud of Welsh. And I made Wales my home 24 years ago, and it is integral to the identity of this nation. Targets are important, but then you need the political will to make sure those targets are met, and that means getting out of silos, putting money into promoting the Welsh language in cultures, in sports, in all different aspects and walks of life, making workplace education available for people working in the public sector, and also going back to the targets and political will. We've got a situation in Grangetown in Cardiff where there's a group of concerned parents who've put their children through primary school in the Welsh medium education, and these come from a very diverse range of people as well, people from all over the world who've made Wales their home. And Cardiff Council is refusing to put a Welsh language secondary school in that community. It's those things, unintended possibly, but it's those things that frustrate.
Okay.
Can I come back on the point? Young people leaving and taking the language with them.
You really can't. Look at the time. We've only got a few minutes left. We might stretch it a little with your agreement, but I do want to get this last question in because Reen has been waiting for it for nearly 90 minutes. 4 of you, possibly 5, are going to answer this question with a simple no, but it's an important one. Simon says, can Wales afford independence?
I mean, the evidence points to, can we afford not to be independent? We know that within the UK we have a third of children living in poverty and entrenched stagnation in the economy. Listen, this isn't an election about independence.
Well,
there's no
kind
referendum
of
now,
is because you could win it.
But it's an election about Wales. And Plaid Cymru and I have a high level of belief in what we can achieve as a nation. Now, we'll crack on with our policies on health and education and job creation and childcare right now, but we'll also lead Wales to be braver, be more confident about what the journey could be, because this is not as good as things could get for Wales.
The SNP are very clear that if they win the election in Scotland, they want another referendum. Would you want a referendum on independence?
At some point, yes, but we're
Well,
two
when?
very different
In the next
countries.
5 years?
No, we've said there won't be a referendum now. We're not at that point. Scotland is Scotland, Wales is Wales. We have different journeys, different trajectories. What I'm saying is, this ain't the best it could be. Why wouldn't anybody want to look at, is there a better way of controlling and designing our future? Most people want to have that conversation, whether they've been convinced on that question of independence or not. I'll offer that ambition, and I'll ask people to come with me.
Dan?
No, independence would be a big mistake for Wales.
You're quite happy to have independence from the EU.
But the EU's not, that wasn't a country, was it? You know, we've been part of the British Union for hundreds of years. It's apples and pears. It's not a straight comparison. Reen says it's not an election about independence, but they've got in their manifesto a commitment about a white paper that would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds and distract them from governing and sorting out the real problems in Wales. And this comes back to what I was going to say earlier, actually. How could we be an independent country when a lot of our youngsters have to move away to further their career? There was a slight dig at me having to move away. And these people take the language, they're young people, they take the language with them. So we're not even attracting as a country, keeping our people within Wales. That's what we should be focusing on.
We're not talking North Korea here, Dan. Yeah, we're talking about redesigning Britain.
We want to encourage our young people to stay in Wales. And I don't know how you could say Wales can be an independent country when lots of there are 300,000 people, Welsh people, living in London.
Including my daughter.
That's 10% of our population.
Including my daughter.
And hopefully your daughter will come back, as I have. But too many don't. And that's the biggest issue that we should be looking at.
There are lessons, if you're concerned about that, to look at the Republic of Ireland, because I think there are people now going back to Dublin who ordinarily
and that's what we need.
That's
what Reform wants to do in Wales.
Okay, Jane.
No to independence. And I'm consistent on this. I wanted to stay in the EU, just like I think we're part of we're better as a bigger team, and in the UK we're better as a bigger team. Look, the relationship with the UK isn't perfect, just as our relationship with the EU wasn't perfect. Okay. We need to stay in the UK.
Anthony?
Yeah, Wales Green Party believes that independence is the best future for Wales. It's very hard to argue that Westminster is working for the people of Wales right now. There's a lot that needs to happen first. So I completely agree with Irene. This isn't an independence election. We need to show the people of Wales that things can be better, even under the existing system. It can be better. Wales can take more control of its own affairs, and that's when you've made Wales better. When Wales is in a better place in 4 years, you turn around and then you start to have that conversation. People see things.
That was almost Trumpian. Make Wales better.
There are a lot of people in Wales who say devolution hasn't worked, and Reform wants to make the Senedd and the Welsh Government work for Wales, but there is a big trust issue here about Cardiff Bay and working for Wales.
Look, Welsh Conservatives are proud to be both Welsh and British. I'm a member of the Conservative and Unionist Party, so we love the fact that Wales is an integral part of the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom would be worse off if Wales wasn't part of it, and Wales would be worse off if it wasn't part of the United Kingdom. So we've got very strong social ties, economic ties, cultural ties, and those are important to maintain. Independence was cost taxpayers an absolute arm and leg. No. At least £10,000 for every single taxpayer in Wales.
How do you calculate that?
Yeah, well, it's actually a figure which is slightly less than a figure that was calculated by the UK government in terms of the total tax taken in Wales and the spending from government sources.
That's as part of the UK.
So
you're not putting any figures out anywhere, Irene.
So let's think about this sensibly. Reen can't even tell us what the currency would be in an independent Wales. And I think we need a government that is focused like a laser beam on the everyday challenges that people face, not one with one eye over its shoulder looking at independence and trying to nurture us further towards that aim.
Independence would be a disaster for Wales. Plaid Cymru don't want this election to be about independence, but the truth is that is Plaid Cymru's raison d'etre. Their first priority is independence, and second priority is everything else behind that, the NHS, education, the economy. And when we've been challenged in the Senedd, when we have a question about do Do you have a constitutional fight, or do you fight for the people of Wales? It's been really interesting to see how Plaid and other parties, for example, we had a vote on protecting shop workers recently, and they went with the constitutional argument rather than protecting shopkeepers in Wales. We believe in a strong Wales, in a strong United Kingdom. Welsh Labour is the party of devolution. We're very proud of that.
Here's your most difficult question of the evening, Leonard. What is raison d'etre in Welsh?
Ah, that's... what is
anybody?
it? What is it? What is it in English?
Good one. Reen, I'm going to give you the final say on this.
Yeah, I'm interested in a new British Union, a redesign of the relationship between us. I'm no...
You either want independence or you don't.
Well, but I'm not an isolationist. I don't want to lock Wales away from the world. And it's been fascinating in this election listening to all the parties, Reform, the Conservatives, Lib Dems and Labour, just telling people, remember how poor Wales is, how useless Wales is, how hopeless we are.
You want a British Union, yet you want independence. How does that work?
And you want the English to pay. That's what you want. You're asking for more money all the time from the UK government.
Well, to be fair, so are you.
But I'm proud to be part of the United Kingdom. That's the difference. He wants independence, but he wants the English to pay for it. It's madness.
I want dependence to end, and for us to spread our wings as a nation, working together with our friends in these islands. I'm pro-European Union. Why wouldn't we in these islands want to work together post-independence too?
One union for the other.
We're now going to have our and finally moment with 3 quick-fire questions, and I mean quick. If you were allowed, or if you wanted, to go for a pint this evening with only one other panellist,
oh my God,
who would it be?
That's a tough one.
Don't ask me first.
Jane.
Don't ask me first.
Well,
that's
I just
really
did.
unfair.
I'm sorry.
With you, Ian.
Oh, that's so kind.
That's a clever
You
one.
can come again. Dan.
I would go with Reen and see if we can last one pint without hitting each other.
Reen.
I'm not into physical violence. I'd go for a pint with Jane Dodds. She spoke about her passion for food last night. We might even get a meal out of it. You never know.
Cheapskate. Eleanor.
I'd go with Jane as well. So you can have a busy night. Yeah, everybody loves
Can
Jane.
I come too?
She's a wonderful person, just as an individual. And I do think that in politics, we've got to remember that. We all, bash each other about politically, but it's really important to remain human.
Darren?
In amongst all of this.
I'd take you, Leonard, for a pint.
God, really?
I would. I'd take you for a pint.
I don't drink.
Because Elena's got a great sense of humour, and I like that about people.
Anthony?
I was torn between Jane and Reen, but Jane's so popular, I'm going for a pint with you.
Jane, you've pulled. Get your coat. Right, second one. Who's your favourite person from Welsh history and culture? Reen?
I look at people who've been heroes of mine in the sort of present day, but I'll go back to Owain Glyndŵr.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say
if Plaid Cymru win this election, it would be the first government in Wales to be answerable only to the people of Wales in 600 years. That inspires me.
Dan?
Like Dylan Thomas, I've heard some good stories about him on nights out in Soho.
Jane?
Mary Jones, an amazing young woman who walked to get a Bible.
And Aaron Bevan, founder of the NHS, very, very proud of what he's done, not just for Wales, but for the entire nation. It is the proudest achievement of the Labour Party.
Darren?
I go with Evan Roberts. So he's a bit of a hero of mine. He's not very well known outside of sort of church circles and Christian circles, but he transformed the nation in a very short period of time.
No, Bevan, that proud Welsh creation, and be interested to know what he thought of it now.
Right, and the final question, and I mean the final question, and this is possibly the most challenging for at least one of you. Who are you supporting in the World Cup, Reen?
Oh, because I haven't thought about it. I'm still devastated after not qualifying. I don't know. I've not think about it yet.
Well, can I jog you? Say England, possibly.
I'll go for Bosnia.
Bosnia over England.
Well, they did a job on us, and I think let's back them.
Dan,
you've got to support one of your neighbours in the home nations. I think we support England. There's a bit of rivalry there, sort of big brother, little brother rivalry. But if we can't support Wales, then I'd like to support our neighbours.
This is sport.
Jane.
I have absolutely not the foggiest which teams are left in the World Cup, but I'll go for the one that's ranked the lowest. They get my support.
That would be, what would that be? Is it Cape Verde?
Great.
Possibly?
I love them.
Okay.
Fantastic.
You've got it in the LBC sweepstakes. Eleanor?
Look, I was gutted that Wales didn't make it this time. I probably support Scotland.
Over England?
Yeah, I think so, because we were in that position a couple of years ago, and it was just such a great experience to be a part of it, and they haven't been there for a long time.
Darren?
I'm more of a sumo wrestling fan. And
What?
I really mean that.
What?
I honestly love sumo wrestling. Fantastic sport. Had the opportunity to go and see it in the Royal Albert Hall last year.
Do we have a psychotherapist in the room?
It's brilliant, honestly.
Anthony?
Try not to imagine Darren as a sumo wrestler.
You've put that image there now.
Which team, Darren? Come on.
You know, I mean, I'd be happy to support England. To be honest, all of our closest neighbours, if they're ever on the pitch, you always cheer them on.
Not
right?
France, though.
You always cheer them. No, well, of course, you know, you've got to pull up the drawbridge somewhere.
Anthony.
Well, you've passed that to me perfectly. I'm going to say France.
Well, listen, thank you all very much. I hope everyone at home has enjoyed that. I think we learnt a lot, particularly about sumo wrestling, but that will probably be in one of the papers tomorrow. So to Ellen Morgan, to Darren Miller, to Anthony Slaughter, to Jane Dodds, to Dan Thomas, and to Ian Apurath, I hope you have, I know it's been a gruelling campaign. I hope you have an enjoyable last week, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating to look at the results. I'm going to be on air on Friday evening, so I hope I'm going to have at least a couple of you on my show next Friday evening. Thank you all very much. I want to know what you made of all of that between now and 9 o'clock. I want your reaction to this evening's debate, 0345 6060 973, and we will give priority to listeners from Wales. It is 8:39, 8:40, the latest I've ever gone to a news bulletin with Matt Hewitt.
A terror attack in the UK is highly likely. The threat level's been raised to severe by the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre following stabbings in North London yesterday. Earlier, the Prime Minister was heckled as he visited Golders Green. Sir Keir Starmer's been told he needs to stop ignoring what's happening on the streets. The Prime Minister's promise to fight hatred. And Donald Trump says the US will remove tariffs on Scottish whisky in honour of the King and Queen. The royals have finished their US visit and moved to Bermuda tonight. LBC weather, some rain in the southwest, South Wales and Northern Ireland tonight. Otherwise clear, lows of 3 degrees.
This is LBC.
Find me somebody to love.
This spring, Dreams are stamping down on price. Shop now for up to 40% off. Dreams. Love your bed.
Tackles the crunch and theatrical diving. Rivals on terraces sobbing and crying. Last minute winners that change everything. These are a few of our favourite things. When you're singing, yet not winning. When your bet's gone bad. We simply remember our favourite things. And then we'll feel so glad.
For all your favourite things, visit BetVictor. 18+, gambleaware.org. Please gamble responsibly.
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one?
Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
Right, who's all in for Cancer Research UK's Race for Life? Sunday Leaguers, dog lovers, beat clubbers, banker dancers, baby ravers, potters. Whether you walk it, jog it, or run it, go all in against cancer. All in to help fund life-saving research. Sign up to your local 3K, 5K, 10K or Pretty Muddy event from just $14.99. Search Race for Life. Prices vary by event distance and participant age.
Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
8:42 on LBC. So I'd like to know what you made of the last, well, I was going to say 90 minutes, actually 100 minutes, wasn't it? Due to my incredible lack of ability to keep time. 0345 6060 973. If you live in Wales, if you're going to be voting in the elections next Thursday, did you hear anything there that made you think, oh, I've got second thoughts now. I was thinking of voting for X, and now I might possibly think of voting for Y. I thought it was fairly good-natured. Yeah, they got a bit rumbustious at times, but it is a political debate. You expect that. So what did you make of it? 0345 6060 973. Well, I have Mike Hughes with me. He is LBC's Wales editor. We also have Rob Osborne, presenter of ITV Wales' current affairs shows Sharp End and Wales This Week. Mike, you were avid idly listening to that or watching it. You've seen all of the other debates. I've seen a couple of them. I mean, was that any different to the others?
I think it was, and it was actually quite nice to see them a bit more relaxed. I think sitting down helps.
Yeah.
A lot of these debates have been behind lecterns, and I think people felt a little bit more relaxed. I think it felt more conversational. I think a lot of the parties would be very happy with the way that it went tonight. They got their lines in, they managed to get their attack lines in as well. But I think it was just a much more measured debate, and I think there was definitely more light than heat.
Well, can I ask more than that? I mean, I'm sitting here feeling physically exhausted, actually, because it is. I've never hosted something where there's 6 people who you really need to try and give equal time to. I think we did achieve that. But Rob, you're a sort of veteran of these things. What did you? Sorry,
a veteran? How old do you think I am?
Sorry. What did you make of it?
Well, as I am a guest in your house, let me commend you on doing that. Almost as good as the ITV leaders debate.
Almost.
With Adrian Masters, which is still available on ITVX. That's contractual. I thought I agree with you, Mike. It's the format really helps, and they're all probably thinking they're on radio. Of course, they're on telly as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be watching this on YouTube, and it's key. And what was interesting was to see who was not officially buddying up and who was going at each other, but you would have noticed Dan Thomas and Rhys Iorwerth here going at each other. Why? Because if you look at the polls, they are the 2 contenders to lead the biggest party. You saw leader of Welsh Conservatives, Darren Millar, and Dan Thomas of Reform sort of linking up on some things like tax. You saw the Greens agreeing with Plaid Cymru because who maybe know there may be some sort of coalition partner going on there. It's really fascinating, and it's fascinating the power dynamics, because if you had come back here any time in the last, 100 years, the person we all would have looked at and assumed would win the election would be Labour, Leonard Morgan. But not this time. If you believe the polls, they're looking at going into 3rd, and that will be catastrophic for the Labour Party, not just in Wales, but across the UK.
I'd only ever met one of them before, or interviewed one of them before. That was Rhys.
Yeah.
Didn't know any of the others, but they all seem to be quite nice people.
Wales is a small place. I mean, a lot of these people here are quite friendly. You mentioned it. Darren Millar is quite religious. He's in a prayer group with Jane Dodds, the Liberal Democrats. She's also very religious. They talk about that. There's the Senedd. As it was, is 60 members. So, they work with each other. And the people who have gone into trouble for all sorts of reasons, you can imagine it's a very hard place to hide, isn't it? In Westminster, there's, 600 odd of you? There's only 60 over there, going up to 96. So, it's a different sort of atmosphere here.
And of course, they're really cognizant that they're going to have to work together at the end of this election campaign. And they're going to have to work to get legislation over the line. They're going to have to work to get budgets over the line. A lot of this campaign has been giving each other a kicking. There's no question about it. But I think now we're really starting to work towards polling day. There is a sense that everyone knows that they're all going to have to get together, should they get re-elected, of course, and govern Wales in some way, shape or form, because the Senedd is designed to spur cooperation.
Yes, no one is going to get a majority. This ain't Westminster. Everyone's going to have to get their heads around next Thursday and Friday and the weekend, I'm afraid. I think it might be a long one, because we have a new electoral system that nobody in the UK is familiar with. We have more members, and no one is going to get a majority. That's what we expect. So we may be in the position, I'm just saying maybe, where the biggest party may not be the one in power. So if Reform were to be the biggest party over Plaid Cymru, their natural allies will be the Conservatives. They're eating up the Conservative vote to the point where there may not be enough Conservatives to go into coalition, either formally or informally. So then that will fall to the next biggest party, based on the polls, that's Plaid Cymru, who can turn to the Greens, Labour, the Liberal Democrats.
And how much do the national parties play a role here? Because Kemi Badenoch, I don't think, would want Darren Millar to go into coalition with Reform. I mean, how much is it his decision?
Well, she has said it's his decision. Whether you believe that she wouldn't have her say behind the scenes is another thing. It's interesting when you go out. So my equivalent of taking a call is vox popping, right? I hit the streets of Merthyr Tydfil. I hit the streets of Abergavenny.
You know how to live.
You want to see some of the lunches I have, Ian? It's the benefits of being a broadcast journalist, right? So, and you ask people, so how are you voting this election? Oh, I'm not voting for Labour, I'm going to vote for Reform or Plaid Cymru. Tends to be the answers. Okay, why? Keir Starmer. It's Keir Starmer. It's never a Leonard Morgan. It may be things like 20 miles an hour. That sort of died away. but it's national politics massively influences how people vote here, and national media.
And Mike, is that what you were experiencing too?
100%. I mean, and how the best laid plans at the start of this campaign about getting the big hitters in from Westminster, really driving that line, showing that unity, it's all fallen.
Because Keir Starmer hasn't been.
He hasn't been here, no. And if you spoke to Eluned Morgan at the beginning of the campaign, her line effectively was, look, he's welcome to come, but if he brings his checkbook, if he starts spending, makes announcements, puts Wales first, absolutely 100%, he can come and knock
She
doors.
didn't go full Anna Sawar as in Scotland.
No,
she nearly did though, didn't she?
Well,
she was going to and then pulled back.
There was certainly a delayed fuse in her response.
So what you're effectively saying is that the Reform UK message of send Starmer a message, that's hitting home.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. And it's very interesting. I mean, all of the party leaders, with the exception of Plaid Cymru, of course, have a Westminster figurehead. Of course, they have Liz Saville-Roberts, but the leader is based here. Keir Starmer has not been here to campaign with Eluned Morgan at all. Many people think he's electoral kryptonite at this point, given everything that's gone on.
Ed Davey.
Well, Ed Davey came to Cardiff, didn't he? But he didn't meet up with Jane Dodds.
Because they fell out, because he said she should resign.
Yeah, well, they have history, don't they?
They have big history. They're papering over the cracks at the moment. Nigel Farage, on the other hand, has been here several times. Been to Merthyr, been to North Wales, trying to show that sense of unity and answer that key question, which a lot of Reform voters and a lot of people watching what's going on are asking: who's actually going to be the leader? Even if Dan Thomas is the First Minister, is it actually going to be Nigel Farage who's pulling the strings?
One thing I noticed at the beginning, they did what they've done in several of the other debates, where they sort of gang up on Dan Thomas, leader of Reform. That wasn't so evident as the whole debate went on, though.
No, although there was that very interesting question that you asked about who want to go for a pint with each other. And Dan Thomas said, well, maybe me and Reid can work it out and see if we can't hit each other or whatever he said, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, I think there'll be occasions in that debate where people said things perhaps they wish they hadn't said. Maybe even
like
about the Welsh language, Iain Dale, maybe.
I couldn't possibly.
He's not
comment.
on the ballot. He's not on the ballot.
I couldn't comment on that. But I mean, do you think there were moments like that?
Well, I think
because when I'm hosting, I can never tell whether they've sort of dropped one.
I think there are a few things that Dan Thomas said about household income and who works and who doesn't work. I think that pint question was quite revealing. That light-hearted question, which always throws politicians when they're not expected. That was fascinating.
But there is method in my madness.
I know,
sometimes.
Ian. I've copied it many times. But let me just bring it back to UK politics for a second, right? So go back 18 months when we had a general election. 2 Labour governments working hand in hand, either side of the M4. This was going to be great. Eluned Morgan hadn't taken over then. Vaughan Gethin, remember him? He was still in power, but the clock was ticking.
Is he No, he's out, isn't he? Already?
He's out. Question.
Is Adam Price standing?
Adam Price is standing. He's third on the list in Carmarthenshire. So he may be coming back. But nobody gave Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves the memo not to do the unpopular things first, because in his electoral cycle it made sense. It made no sense for the new First Minister of Wales, Eluned Morgan. So she's already facing problems with her own party in Wales, unpopular policies like 20 miles an hour. Then you bring along farmers' inheritance tax, winter fuel and all that stuff, and she is facing the perfect storm. Plus there's an alternative to the right vote, if you like, in Wales, which is Reform.
Yeah.
And there we are.
Also, we should point out that Anthony Slaughter, the Green leader, he was critical of Zach Pulaski over his retweeting about the Golders Green arrest today. So that's worth a note. We will be talking about safety and security after 9 o'clock on the programme. We'll go away from Welsh events for that hour because there's been so many developments on that front today, as you will have been hearing in our news bulletins. It's 8:52.
This is LBC.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Get that Toyota electric feeling with the all-new, all-electric Toyota Urban Cruiser. Available with 0% APR representative and £1,500 deposit contribution. And save £1,500 with the Toyota Electrified Saving. Visit your nearest Toyota centre. Price from $29995. Available on Toyota PCP when financed through Toyota Financial Services by 30th of June 2026. Optional final payment. Indemnities may be required. See website conditions apply.
The following is from TfL.
I got loads of flowers the other day. And messages from people I didn't even know. My mates spelled out my name in tea lights. and my mum hung my favourite footy shirt on the railings, next to the lamppost, where I got killed. By a nice lady, just someone who thought it was okay to go a few miles an hour over the limit.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Get that Euro Millions feeling with Friday's £34 million jackpot. Plus, 10 UK winners are guaranteed to be millionaires. That's 10 more reasons to dance. 10 more robots, 10 more limbos, 10 more salsas. Friday's Euro Millions jackpot is £34 million, and 10 UK winners are guaranteed to be millionaires. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. It could be you. Estimated jackpot. Rules apply. 18+.
How does it feel to face the storm head on? Go beyond the map. Drive into the extreme. Or win a Ford Explorer. Test drive one before the end of May and you could win one. Now, how would that feel? Search Win a Ford Explorer. Ready, set, Ford. T's and C's apply. 25+ only. See ford.co.uk for details.
This is LBC. Message Iain Dale on WhatsApp now on 0345 60 60 973.
8:54 on LBC. Mike Hughes is with us, LBC's Wales editor, and Rob Osborne has finally made it onto LBC, presenter of the ITV Wales current affairs show Sharp End and Wales This Week. Who knows what this could lead to,
I have waited
Rob?
since I was 12 years old for this moment. Finally, for
And the thing is,
Mike.
he's not joking.
I'm not. I wish I was Nick Abbott. I've always wanted to be Nick Abbott.
Haven't we all? Right, David is in Cardiff and wants to have a word. Hello, David.
Oh, good evening, Ian. I tried to call in to ask this as a question to the candidates, but it's about immigration. It's already been covered. It had already been covered.
You were actually next on the list, David, if I'm honest, but I'm sorry we couldn't get to you.
No, that's okay. But I'd just like to make the point and put it as a question as well. I've been canvassing on behalf of Plaid Cymru, and immigration has come up in both ways, actually. Some people against it and other people wanting to make sure that we're not going to implement anti-immigrant policies. But one point about Wales that a lot of people may not realise is we have the most cosmopolitan population in terms of people that were born outside the country. In the last census, 27% were born outside Wales, of which 21% were born in England. Now, the point I want to make is, when people go on about immigration being a problem, is it? And I can understand the arguments about pressures on housing, public services, and all that. But if that's the reason they're against it, then they should be against any well, not against any immigration, but they should be concerned about everyone coming in here. But I've got the feeling that they're just concerned about people of certain ethnicities, colours, or whatever. That if you come here from England, you're absolutely fine. But if you come here from Hungary or Poland or Latin America, then you're not welcome. And I think unless they can answer that question, would they do something to address immigration, the problem of immigration overall in Wales? And I don't think the Senate has any powers to do that, even if we wanted to. Or is it just that it is just a cover for racism, is what I suspect
let's
it is
put that
with the
to
anti-immigrant parties with a plural S on the end?
Let's put that to Mike and David. Mike and Rob. Mike, has immigration really played a big part in this campaign? It obviously isn't a devolved issue.
It isn't a devolved issue, but all of the parties said that it's coming up on the doorstep. And the Welsh Government gets battered by this from parties on the right, Reform, and the Conservatives, particularly around their nation of sanctuary policy.
Just explain that.
Which is effectively to say that, immigrants and people fleeing persecution are welcome to settle in Wales. And
it's an integration.
Yes, exactly. And it's a difficult thing for them to argue over, the parties on the right, because effectively they say they blame mass immigration for a lot of the woes that are going on in Wales. Reform UK and the Conservatives have taken that attack line. But then you ask them about Ukraine, and many of the Ukrainians that have settled in Wales came here under the nation of sanctuary policy. So it's difficult. I think largely it comes up on the doorstep because, and this goes about what we talked about earlier on, about Westminster politics feeding into Welsh affairs here. But it isn't a devolved issue, and a lot of people would like to hope whoever they send into government in Cardiff Bay in the next week or so will take the issue to Downing Street.
We've got another call from Donna, and I know I'm going to crucify the place that she's in. I'm going to let Mike say it's Tallywain.
I'd have to see it.
I don't have it in front of me.
Donna, you tell us.
It's Talawain.
Right. Oh, I wouldn't have got it too wrong.
It was on
then.
the tip of my tongue.
Right. What would you like to say?
Yeah. Well, I have a comment on Welsh language. I speak a little bit of Welsh myself, which I learnt on Duolingo. I did a bit of supply teaching last year in a secondary school. And on one occasion, I found the Welsh teacher crying in the classroom after the Welsh lesson. I asked her what was up, and she said she'd moved specially from North Wales to South Wales to teach Welsh, and the kids don't want to learn it, and they're giving her hell. So my feeling is that anyone who wants to learn Welsh can. They can go on Duolingo, they can go to adult learning classes, they can use any other app. Other apps are available, etc. And, setting targets is not really helpful because the 14-year-old that doesn't want to learn anything, least of all do they want to learn a language that they don't speak at home and they probably can't see a huge amount of use for. And it's taken away. Welsh education is at the lowest level of all the United Kingdom nations, and it's equivalent to education standards in Turkey. So are we taking away 2 hours lesson time to teach something the kids don't want to learn because of targets? Is that really the best way forward?
Either of you want to take this on, Rob?
Thank you, Ian. Non-controversial topic for an impartial broadcast journalist. I'll tell you something which is fact, which is the language has historically been very political in Wales. That's why Plaid Cymru were founded. It was very much about protecting Welsh language, Welsh identity. Fast forward to the 60s, that grew and all the rest of it. But there has been a consensus around this for a long time. Reform, you heard it tonight in the debate, are starting to break that by moving away from this target. Now, I think there is probably another separate issue about the standards of Welsh education. I did an interview with Iain Morgan, which was on telly last night, also available on ITVX.
Shameful.
Sorry,
shameless.
You would expect me, wouldn't you? Wales decides the interviews. And there's a real strong sense there that on some basic things like kids reading in schools, the eye has been taken off the ball. We have the numbers to hand, but there's a proportion of children leaving school in Wales functionally illiterate, and that is an election issue.
To be fair, that's the same in England. Mike, final comment from you.
It's a hot political potato, isn't it, in Wales? And what's interesting is that the two parties that are currently leading the polls have effectively entirely different positions on the Welsh language. Plaid Cymru clearly want to drive forward with it. A lot of their voters are Welsh-speaking, a lot of them first language Welsh.
50% target to get kids in Welsh language education by 2050.
Reform UK tonight, Dan Thomas saying, do away with targets, let it kind of grow naturally.
Well, Rob, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you,
and Mike, thanks for hosting us down here this evening. We've
Absolute
thoroughly
pleasure.
enjoyed it. I've still got an hour to go. You can go home now if you like.
I've got to lock the building.
Have you really? Goodness me. And that was me thinking you're the person in charge. He's a caretaker too, ladies and gentlemen. Right, after the news, we'll turn our attention back to yesterday's attack in Golders Green. This evening, Britain's terror threat has been raised from substantial to severe, meaning an attack is likely to take place within the next 6 months. And this comes as the Met Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has criticised the leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, for retweeting a post which criticised the arrest of the suspect and how the police officers involved went about doing it. The vast majority of us will have seen that footage by now, so do you think the police do deserve some criticism for it, or is making that criticism just not taking our security seriously? The number to call 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, the UK's terror threat level has been increased. The Home Office has increased it from substantial to severe, meaning an attack is highly likely in the next 6 months. It's in response to incidents including yesterday's suspected terror attack on Golders Green in North London. One of the 2 stabbing victims, Sholmi Rand, has been describing what happened to him.
I was walking the street, regular, comfortably. I was on the phone. And this fellow came running towards me, and he just stabbed me in my chest. I ran to a nearby synagogue to take shelter. That way I noticed that I'm bleeding.
A Somali-born British national remains in custody. The Prime Minister has called for people to realise that Jewish people are living their lives in fear. The head of the Met Police has criticised the Green Party leader Zach Polanski for sharing what he called an inaccurate and misinformed social media post about the way his officers arrested the Golders Green terror suspect. It's after Mr. Polanski amplified online claims that officers violently kicked the man in the head. In other news, the Bank of England's held the base rate of interest at 3.75%. It warns inflation could surge to more than 6% if the Iran crisis worsens. Authorities say a second World War bomb discovered at a building site in Devon will have to be blown up where it was found. More than 1,000 homes in Plymouth have been evacuated. The 250-kilo German bomb will be destroyed in a controlled explosion inside a sand structure tomorrow. Colonel Nick Handies from 8th Engineer Brigade.
We're going to work tirelessly through the night to ensure that mitigation both protects the buildings that face the item and indeed covers the item to ensure that the least amount of blast and fragmentation come out from the area where we do our work.
And Donald Trump's announced he's lifting tariffs on Scotch whisky as the King and Queen end a state visit to the US.
I just took all the restrictions off so Scotland and Kentucky can start dealing again, and I did it in honor of the King and Queen who just left. They're heading back. It was a big deal. They've been trying to get this for a long time.
The government says it's great news for an industry which is worth nearly £1 billion in exports. In the city, the FTSE 100's closed up 148 points at 10,361. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather. Some rain in the southwest, South Wales and Northern Ireland tonight. Otherwise, mainly clear. Lows of 3 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. It's 5 minutes past 9 on LBC. Welcome if you've just joined us. You missed a cracking debate between the 6 Welsh political leaders. You can catch up on that on the LBC app or Global Player after the programme has finished. Now, I want to turn to some very, very serious matters, which ordinarily we would have covered in the first hour of the programme. First of all, the UK terrorism threat level has been raised to severe by the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre after the Golders Green stabbings, meaning a terror attack is thought to be highly likely. Now, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, described Wednesday's attack as a vile act of terrorism. She said today the national threat level has increased to severe, which means a terrorist attack is considered highly likely. I know this will be a source of concern to many, particularly amongst our Jewish community who have suffered so much. Now, the assessment to raise the threat level to severe judges that an attack is highly likely in the next 6 months. The previous level of substantial meant an attack was assessed as likely, and severe is the second highest level of 5 terrorism levels. So, I mean, that is quite chilling, isn't it, when the people in charge of these things believe that this country is likely to experience a terror attack fairly imminently. Now, I'd like to hear your reaction to that. I don't think it comes as a massive surprise, does it? Given the level of anti-Semitic attacks that we've seen in this country over the last few months, given the fact that we know the Iranian government is encouraging Iranian people in this country to, take the law into their own hands. I mean, I say that advisedly because most people in this country who have come from Iran have flown Iran, and they're the least likely people to do this sort of thing. But the security services believe that this is happening, that people are being encouraged to do it. So we all need to be just that little bit more vigilant, don't we? Now, second of all, Sir Mark Rowley, Britain's most senior police officer, has said that Green Party leader Zach Polanski's sharing a post about the arrest of the Golders Green terror suspect will have a chilling effect. His words, not mine. Mr. Polanski retweeted a Twitter post, on X post, accusing officers of, quotes, repeatedly and violently kicking a mentally ill man in the head when he was already incapacitated from being tasered. Now, the man, who's since been identified as a Somalian-born British national, had just allegedly stabbed Shoaimi Rand, aged 34, and Moshe Ben Bela, aged 76, in a suspected terror attack. Now, Sir Mark Rowley said in a letter to Zach Polanski that he was disappointed by his remarks, adding that the post was inaccurate and misinformed. I should, for accuracy's sake, repeat that this was something that Zach Polanski retweeted. It wasn't his own words, but if you retweet something without any comment, then don't be surprised if people assume that you agree with the comments in that tweet. Sir Mark, in his letter, said that officers are nothing short of extraordinary, saying without their efforts to stop him, I dread to think what the outcome could have been. He added that London's Jewish communities are scared. They have experienced a series of targeted attacks on the community, and they expect our officers to act, protect them. That is exactly what our officers did yesterday. Your decision to criticise these officers using your public profile and reach will have a chilling effect. Now, this came after Polanski faced a wave of criticism from Conservative and Labour politicians over the post. Labour MP Jonathan Hinder said, "This is so telling. Polanski hates the brave police officers who stopped this. He's more concerned about the anti-Semitic terrorist with a knife in his hand. Isn't that right, Zach Polanski?" Neil O'Brien, a Conservative MP, added, "As usual, the Greens' sympathies are with the terrorist rather than the brave police officers stopping him." And I have to say, I was quite shocked yesterday when I saw tweets of a similar nature to this, with quite well-known people questioning the police's action. I mean, this guy had a knife. He wouldn't release the knife. So what did they expect the police to do? Just sort of ask him politely to sort of drop it? Because in most other countries, that suspect would have been shot in the head. And frankly, who could have blamed police officers for doing that? He'd already attacked some people. He clearly wanted to attack others. And so the police, I think, were acting incredibly bravely there. But not according to people on the hard left, whose sympathies are always against the police. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. I want to get your reaction to the fact that the terrorism level has been raised, but also about this letter, because it is quite unprecedented. I can't remember the last time a Met Police Commissioner wrote to the leader of a political party saying, "Oi, mate, watch your words." Quite something, isn't it? Do you approve of that? Or do you think that in itself is a little bit chilling? 0345 6060 973. Well, in our debate earlier, I asked the leader of the Welsh Greens, Anthony Slaughter, about Zach Polanski's retweets during the hustings.
To come back to the question about Zach, yes, I was made aware of this on my way here just shortly beforehand. I haven't seen the tweet. I understand, as you say, Iain, that Zach retweeted a tweet that it does seem, from what I've read, was inappropriate to retweet. I know that Zach and his other colleagues in the London Assembly do work closely with the Met Police, so there will be discussions afterwards to see what went wrong, how this can be better handled in future. It's also the scourge of social media when news is coming at you bombarding, and people, it took me a long time to train myself not to send tech tweets or post comments on social media.
Some of us still haven't trained ourselves.
But I can't speak for Zach. I haven't spoken to him since.
But there is an accusation that all of the anti-Semites who used to infest the far left of the Labour Party have now joined the Green Party. And you seem quite happy, or your party seems quite happy to accept them.
Absolutely no tolerance for any anti-Semitic behaviour, any Islamophobic behaviour. It's notable that it's Labour politicians saying that's happened. I haven't seen much evidence of it. We have had no complaints of anti-Semitic behaviour or Islamophobic behaviour in Wales regarding members and candidates. Stories do come out. You know, political parties reflect society. Society, unfortunately, does have racism at its heart, but it is not tolerated in the Green Party. We have robust disciplinary procedures, of which, as leadership members, the leadership team, we play no part in. But I can't be more clear. There is no place for it in our party.
Well, good on him, I think, but he criticised his party leader. He is the party leader in Wales, but Zach Polanski is the leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. So, I mean, that's something that possibly might get a few headlines tomorrow, I suspect, because it's never very edifying within a political party when a senior member of it criticises their party leader, but I think Anthony Slaughter was absolutely right to do that. Dal Babu joins me, former Chief Superintendent in the Metropolitan Police. Dal, very good evening. Let's start on the terror threat, first of all. Did that come as a surprise to you that they've raised it?
Well, Ian, it would have been based on intelligence, as you've already said. It's on 5 levels. It's gone from substantial to severe. And I think, given the intelligence that they have, there are concerns that there may be further terrorist attacks. So I think it would have been made entirely on intelligence. These decisions are intelligence-led. They're not political decisions. So it's based on that information that comes from a wide set of sources, police, MI5, open source information. And we've seen with our own eyes that, unfortunately, there's been a horrific attack on 2 Jewish men yesterday in Golders Green, not far from where a petrol bomb was thrown in Kenton, in Harrow, and a stone's throw away from where 4 ambulances were burned from a Jewish charity. So I think the intelligence is there, and I think you can understand why it's been raised.
And one can only deduce that the terror threat is likely to be against the Jewish community.
Yeah, again, Ian, I don't know the details, but I don't think that's a unfounded view that would have been taken in the intelligence. There may well be other intelligence there, but certainly the thing that we've seen in the last few weeks have been about attacks against our Jewish community.
Well, let's turn to this letter from Sir Mark Rowley. Now, I don't know if you and I are of a similar vintage. I suspect we might be, but I don't recall.
We are in. Yeah.
I don't recall a Met Police Commissioner writing a letter like this to a political party leader in the past. There will have been a lot of heart searching and discussions within the Met about whether this was an appropriate thing to do. Do you think it was the right thing to do?
Well, I mean, Sir Mark would have made a decision based on his own thoughts. I don't know what his thoughts are, but in terms of the incident itself, Ian, this is about police are allowed to use reasonable force. And the reasonable force where a man is holding a knife, having stabbed 2 people, is refusing to let go of the knife. Because let's face it, at that stage, all the information the police had was that the suspect had stabbed 2 people, and he had then was refusing to let go of the knife. I think it's reasonable force, and if that means a blow to the body, then I think that in those circumstances that's reasonable. It's all about reasonableness. If this man was totally compliant, he'd gone down, let go of the knife, was being handcuffed, and he was then blows were struck to him, then you would question whether that's reasonable force. But in the circumstances and in the video that's been released, what you see is the suspect's being chased, refusing to comply with police, being tasered, refusing to let go of the knife, and the police then used what I saw as reasonable force in order to make sure he's secure and not going to cause any more harm to anybody else.
How frustrating is it for ordinary police officers who take their lives into their own hands, sometimes on a regular basis? You don't know when you step outside your front door that morning. Your partner might not even know whether you'll be coming back, and there's always that sort of feeling in the back of your head, well, something awful could happen. How frustrating is it that there are some people in our society who always jump to the conclusion that the police somehow have got it wrong, that they've misbehaved, they've used excess violence, and will always find a reason to criticise the police, when most of the rest of us think, well, good on them, they've done exactly the right thing. There's nothing in the video that we've seen of that you could possibly take exception to, and yet some people always find a reason to criticise.
Well, you're right, Ian. Police officers go to work, they sort of kiss their partners goodbye and go off to work. They don't intend to do bad things. They intend to do an honest day's work and then come back. But I think what we're seeing with social media, unregulated social media, is people will clip they'll use a little bit of evidence that fulfills their own echo chamber. And I think it's extremely frustrating for the police. And so there is a time when if a police officer has been attacked, members of the public would help that individual. But now people get their phones out, they're looking for filming it and then circulating it. So it is extremely frustrating, and that may well be one of the reasons why the police have wanted to correct that record at the earliest opportunity, because the facts as they are at the moment is that we have one man who has stabbed two people, including a 76-year-old defenceless old man and I think it was a 34-year-old other Jewish person. It's then been chased, he's been detained, he's refusing to let go of the knife, and despite being tasers, he's still fighting. So I think it's what the force that the police used was reasonable, appropriate, given the knowledge they had and the situation they had in front of them. And so I think it's not particularly helpful if people then misrepresent that or assume that police had detailed knowledge of this individual, which they didn't have. And certainly, if I was in that situation as a police officer, I think I'd want to detain the individual, handcuff them, and if they're not letting go of the knife, you'd use reasonable force to ensure that they do.
The Prime Minister has announced £25 million worth of extra policing to police Jewish areas, but I mean, obviously, Jewish people live all over the country, not just concentrated in one or two areas. There are sort of areas of North London where there is quite a high concentration of Jewish people, so that it can work there. But I mean, I'm sitting here in Cardiff. There are only 2,000 Jewish people in Wales, but they are feeling equally as frightened and concerned about their safety, I suspect, as people in North London. Is it just a case of extra money for policing and security, or is there something else that you think could be done to help people feel safer?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, Ian. We know that Jewish population is about 300,000. A significant number of those Jewish people live in Golders Green, Barnet, in Harrow. But you're right, Jewish people are in all of our communities. And I think what we need to be doing is to ensure that people can fully understand that it can never be acceptable to attack Jewish people, and anti-Semitism can never be sort of supported in any shape or form. So I think we need to make that clear. I think the police have, because of the attacks that have happened in that area, have done what's called reassurance patrols. They've got additional police officers. It is no coincidence that the police officers were at the scene very quickly and were able to arrest the suspect very quickly. It was because there was extra patrols in that area. So the Home Secretary has agreed to provide extra funding for police and some other charities associated with the Jewish community, and that will mean that there's extra security patrols in and around those areas to try and provide reassurance to the wider Jewish community. But you're absolutely right. There is something else about the Jewish community across our country, and people need to make sure that all of us condemn anti-Semitism and attacks on the Jewish community.
Dal, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on LBC this evening. That's Dal Babu, former Chief Superintendent in the Metropolitan Police. We'll come to your calls in a moment. Really want your reaction to the fact that the terror level threat has been increased, but also to Zach Polanski's tweet and the fact that the Met Police Commissioner has written to Zach Polanski and in no uncertain terms has told him he's wrong. What do you think about that? 0345 6060 973. It's 9:21 on LBC.
This is LBC.
You've packed enough suitcases to know quality when you see it. Well, Saga Travel Insurance has been named a Which Best Buy. And now get 20% off when you buy before the 11th of June. Search Saga Travel Insurance for a quote today. New policies only, Standard and Plus are Which Best Buys May 2025. Terms and conditions apply. Over 50s only.
The following is from TfL.
My name was Luna, like the moon. I was 2 days short of my 17th birthday when I was killed. My killer wasn't a bad man. He had a rescue dog called Frank and rang his mum every Sunday. He wasn't a speed freak. He just thought it was okay to go a few miles an hour over the limit. But that was enough to knock me off my bike and kill me.
Speeding injures or kills over 1,000 people in London every year. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Bring your pensions together into one easy-to-manage online plan with PensionBee. Because when your pension is in a good place, you're in a good place. When investing, your capital is at risk.
The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is a bold and uplifting new musical based on the incredible true story of 13-year-old William Kamkwamba, who dared to dream big against impossible odds. Don't miss the West End premiere, playing now at Soho Place for a strictly limited run until the 18th of July. Book now at sohoplace.org.
Iain Dale on LBC.
23 minutes past 9 on LBC. Well, let's go to Erin in Maida Vale. Erin, very good evening. What would you like to tell me?
Good evening, Ian. I completely understand that people are afraid and upset, but I disagree that what Zach Polanski has said is wrong. I mean, the chap was tasered, he was incapacitated, the police were kicking him in the head, and then a member of the public came in to take the knife out of his hand. I just don't see that that's right.
He wouldn't release the knife.
Yeah, but he was incapacitated with a taser.
He clearly wasn't. If he didn't release the knife, he wasn't incapacitated, was he?
Have you ever been tasered?
No, I haven't.
You can't. People who are tasered, they don't have the function to be able to release things. I mean, if you're electrocuted, you hold on to things. You don't let go. He was tasered, and several kicks to the head just seemed ridiculously violent to me. He deserves to be punished, but I don't believe that he deserves to be kicked in the head several times.
Well, in most other countries, he would have been shot.
But we're not most other countries, and what, do you believe that police should be able to shoot people?
No, well, we don't, as you say, we don't do that in this country, but all I'm suggesting is that...
you seem to be suggesting that he should have been shot.
No, I'm not suggesting he should have been shot at all. I am suggesting
but
that...
you are implying that
I've
in
just
other
told
countries...
Well, in other countries, he would have been shot. I'm not suggesting that the police should have done that here. What I am suggesting is that the police are trained to deal with incidents like this, and I think it is wrong for outsiders...
I think police are trained, but, kicking someone in the head, several kicks in the head, and then a member of the public is the one who comes in to take the knife out of his hand.
Well, you seem to think that is sort of proof of your case. I don't. I think we should always, in these situations, we can question it afterwards, but I think in that moment, the police knew that he had attacked two people, that he'd stabbed two people, he wasn't releasing the knife, they told him to release the knife, and yes, they were violent towards him. I don't blame them for that at all.
But how is kicking him in the head helping?
Well, because
trying to kick the knife out of his hand? Why are they not
that might have encouraged him to release it.
There was a member of the public who came in, jumped on him, and started separating the knife from him. Why could the police not do that? If they're so well trained, why was it a member of the public who did that?
They clearly, in their professional opinion, and you are not a professional on this, you are drawing all sorts of conclusions from something that, frankly, you know nothing about.
I beg to differ, but
tell me about your expertise in this area.
Why is kicking someone in the head going to be helpful?
I don't know.
That
That may be part of the training that they get. I've no idea. But what's your expertise in this area?
My expertise is I've seen how you disarm people. I've worked in nightclubs where you talk people down, where you calm them down.
Do you genuinely believe that this was a situation where this person was likely to be able to be calmed down, as you put it? All of his actions would suggest the opposite.
He was absolutely incapable of responding because
you don't know that.
He was. Well, no, I do because he was tasered. Have you?
Do you know how long it was between the moment he was tasered and the fact that he was on the ground and not releasing the knife? I don't. Do you?
But that's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant at all.
He was tasered. He was incapacitated.
No, you don't know that. You could see him struggling.
No, he wasn't struggling. He was on the floor.
All right, well, you've watched a very different video to me then.
He was moving from left to right as he was kicked in the head.
Yeah, well, I suggest that sometimes you should give the police the benefit of the doubt before jumping to conclusions which you don't have the evidence to jump to, Aaron. But thank you very much indeed. John is in Golders Green. Hello, John.
Hi. Look, you've mentioned two subjects for talking about today. One is the Somali, the way the police treat him, and the other is the terror threat. Both are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what is the point? There's been 6-8 terror incidents already in the last 18 months, starting with the Ariana Grande concert, and now it's now deemed that it's going to be highly likely there's going to be another next 6 months. That is a meaningless statement. What's the difference between likely and very likely when there have already been 6 to 8 incidents of this? The second point I'd like to say is that Zach Polanski, who is Jewish, maybe he had the inside track on this. Maybe he knew in advance that this person had a mental illness, because as far as I knew, this was only released by the Met much later on, that he had that he was known and he had some kind of mental illness. So why is he accusing the police of attacking someone with who has a mental illness? Did he have a label on his back?
Well, to be fair to Zach Polanski, I'll just repeat, he retweeted something. He didn't actually say it himself. You can say, well, it's tantamount to the same thing. I'd have some sympathy with that view.
Thing. This man has aspirations to be Prime Minister.
Yeah, and I think he's undermined those aspirations by doing this.
And he's Jewish.
Yeah.
I mean,
indeed.
He's entitled. He's entitled to be anti-Israel just because he's Jewish. We've gone over that. We've gone down that road many, many times. But how can a Jewish person condone this man's actions and that statement was tantamount to a partial condoning of it?
He has not expressed any sympathy with this man's actions.
Of course
That's a terrible thing to say.
The police shouldn't have dealt him in this way because he had a mental illness.
Yeah, but that's not expressing sympathy with what he did.
Knew about that before.
No, but what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to imply that you thought Zach Polanski had some sympathy with what this man did.
I'm saying Zach Polanski had sympathy with the fact that he had a mental illness. Now, how did Zach Polanski know that? And how did the police know that at the time of the attack, when the man was holding the knife and had stabbed two people?
On that, you are
How did he know
absolutely
that?
right. You are absolutely right on that. Thank you very much indeed, John. Keep your calls coming. We're also going to be talking about the Iranian football chief with IRGC ties, who's been expelled from Canada moments after he arrived in the country. I think this story is going to be quite a big one in the run-up to the World Cup, because whether Iran actually still participates in the World Cup, I think is up for grabs. But we'll find out more about this in a moment. You're listening to LBC. It's 9:31. Let's get the LBC News headlines with Daryl Jackson.
The UK terror threat level's been raised to severe, meaning an attack is highly likely. Security officials announced the change a day after 2 Jewish men were injured in a stabbing in London's Golders Green. Police are still questioning a 45-year-old man. Firefighters say they don't believe a huge fire near a synagogue in North London was started deliberately. Flames tore through 3 floors of the house in Stamford Hill this afternoon. And authorities say a Second World War bomb discovered at a building site in Devon will have to be blown up where it was found. More than 1,000 homes in Plymouth have been evacuated as a 250-kilo German device can't be moved. LBC weather, some rain in the southwest, South Wales and Northern Ireland tonight. Otherwise clear, lows of 3 degrees.
This is LBC.
Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And come on in to Classic FM Calm, LBC's soothing sister station. Find peace in the music with Classic FM Calm. Listen on Global Player or ask your smart speaker to play Classic FM Calm.
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one? Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
You've packed enough suitcases to know quality when you see it. Well, Saga Travel Insurance has been named a Which Best Buy. And now get 20% off when you buy before the 11th of June. Search Saga Travel Insurance for a quote today. New policies only. Standard and Plus are Which Best Buys May 2025. Terms and conditions apply. Over 50s only.
Do you ever feel like getting back under your duvet in the middle of the day? Ferroglobin is a great-tasting liquid formula with iron, which contributes to the reduction of tiredness and fatigue and normal formation of hemoglobin. Ferroglobin from Vitabiotics at Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is a bold and uplifting new musical based on the incredible true story of 13-year-old William Kamkwamba, who dared to dream big against impossible odds. Don't miss the West End premiere, playing now at Soho Place for a strictly limited run until the 18th of July. Book now at sohoplace.org.
Iain Dale, text 84850. This is LBC.
9:34 on LBC. We'll come back to your calls in just a few moments, but I thought this was an interesting story to mention on the programme tonight because Iran's football chief, Mehdi Taj, once a commander in the IRGC, was sent back from Canada just hours after landing, according to a government source who spoke to Iran International. Taj and two accompanying individuals left the country at 10:05 p.m. On Tuesday, suggesting he was allowed to land, but was subsequently questioned by Canadian authorities before being sent back. So quite interesting this, and it's very interesting to speculate on what this might mean for Iran's participation in the World Cup in America starting in mid-June. Well, let's talk to Nega Mojtahedi about this, journalist and presenter of Iran International English, also the host of the Eye for Iran podcast. This was her exclusive story for Iran International English. Nega, good to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me.
What are the implications of this? Just take us through what happened.
So it all started for me Monday morning at 5 a.m. I received a text message saying that this individual, Mehdi Taj, was headed to Canada. And I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe that something like this could happen because by Canada's own laws, by their own rules and their own admission, this individual is inadmissible. And as per Canadian law, he is categorically defined as a terrorist because Canada enlisted the IRGC as a terrorist entity in 2024. And Mehdi Taj was a former IRGC commander in the intelligence corp. So I said, this is impossible. But I did my due diligence as a reporter and I looked into it. I spoke to several government sources and sources within Canada's security apparatus and found out that, yes, he is inadmissible. However, the Canadian government found a workaround and, in fact, gave him something called a temporary resident permit, a TRP, to essentially override their own inadmissibility to allow him into the country for FIFA. Now, as soon as my investigation came out, questions were swirling around the Canadian government, and upon his arrival to Canada, he was questioned and then sent back, but only because we exposed what had happened.
So are there any implications for Iran's participation in the World Cup? Because you can imagine, well, if he's been refused entry to Canada, there will be members of the Iranian delegation, presumably, who might well be refused entry to the United States.
So already, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, had announced several weeks ago that Mehdi Taj specifically would be denied entry into the United States for the World Cup because he is an IRGC. And in 2019, the first Trump administration enlisted the IRGC as a terrorist entity. However, the U.S. administration specified and said, if you're an Iranian player, you are allowed to play in the World Cup. And today at the World FIFA delegation here in Vancouver, the delegates announced that Iran will still be playing in the World Cup, even if the head person from the team won't be making it due to the fact that he is with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
And do we know anything about the identity of the admin officials who will be accompanying the Iranian squad?
Yeah, so the other two individuals who actually accompanied Mehdi Taj on this his journey to Canada, if you will, They chose to go back with him, but the Canadian government allowed those two individuals to enter upon arrival because those two individuals were not linked to the IRGC, but they decided to go back with Mehdi Taj when he had his permit revoked as a result of our investigation.
Thank you very much indeed, Nega. Keep your eyes on other people who might not be refused entry, because I suspect this is not the last we've heard of this story. Thank you. That's Nega Motaheji, journalist and presenter for Iran International English, and she does this brilliant podcast called I for Iran. Right, let's go back to your calls. We're talking about the security threat level. It's been raised to severe. And also, let's talk about Sir Mark Rowley's letter to Zach Polanski. Phil is in Cairn Lodge. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Ian. I'm sorry to say this, but I've been sitting and listening to LBC all day, listening to these lily-livered armchair specialists bleating about the way the police dealt with this guy. Look, a couple of things I'd like to explain to you. But before I do that, I need to caveat it all. I used to be part of a de-radicalization program working in Somalia amongst some of the hardline individuals, radicals that you could ever possibly meet. So I know a bit about this stuff. First thing I'd say is this. I have been tasered as part of my training to go into that position. I was volunteered to experience what it's like to be tasered. Yes, ordinarily, if you're of a normal disposition and you're anxious enough to be waiting to be tasered, you're incapacitated. In fact, you'll probably wet yourself at the same time. You can't move. Finished. If you're keyed up, having just stabbed somebody, your body's full of adrenaline, the chances are that when you're tasered, you will still, if you've got it in you to fight, you will fight. There is no question. And there have been many accounts of really big guys that have been tasered and they've just carried on walking towards the police or walking towards security. I've been tasered 2 or 3 times. That's point number one. The second point is...
Well, I hope our first caller, Aaron, is still listening, because you've just proved him completely wrong.
I've listened to this all day. Tom had somebody on earlier on, 2 people on earlier on, complaining about being kicked in the head. Let me tell you this. If your life is at stake, and those 2 coppers, at that point, their lives were at risk.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't compliant. He was... If you watch the video, you see he's holding onto that knife, and he's moving towards them. They had every right to do whatever it took to preserve their lives and to restrain him. That's the law of the jungle. That's the law of fighting. That's the way it works. Either you get killed or you detain the person trying to kill you.
And presumably, and you clearly know something about this, presumably this would have all been included in their training as to what they should then do. And, I mean, OK, it looks horrible when someone's kicked in the head, but, I mean, they were justified in doing that, in my view. And I'm not speaking as any great expert on this.
Absolutely. From what I've seen, I would say they were entirely justified. He was warned enough times. And bear in mind that the early reports said that the guy had actually gone for the police before the tasers came out. So they'd already been threatened. And if you have a copper shouting at you, put down the knife, and he's holding a taser, you put down the knife.
Yeah.
And then put your hands behind your back, and you know, it's hunky-dory that you get stuck in the back of the car and the world carries on.
What about the point, though, that it was a member of the public that actually got the knife off him?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't? Okay.
No, he was one of the local security guys that came to their assistance.
Right.
They were on the scene at the time that all this was happening, and they kind of coordinated the police, etc., etc. So I'm told by friends of mine, let's say, that are close to the situation. So he leapt in and assisted taking the knife out of the guy's hand. But, I mean, for goodness sake, we've got to wake up. The other issue that I'd like to bring up, slightly at a tangent, and you're not going to like this, but it's the truth. There are so many people that want to do us harm. so many people that want to do us harm, that are encouraged and cajoled by the mullahs in Iran and others to every opportunity that they get. They want to do us harm. You know, they're sent here to do us harm.
I don't know why you think I won't. I don't know why you think I won't like you saying that, because I absolutely agree with you.
And we've had such an appalling record of tracing these people and finding out who these people are that are in our country that want to do us harm.
Yeah.
You know, it's just unbelievable. So I suspect what will happen now is all these sleeper cells, all these people that have got no money or want to make some money will be in touch through the back channels, through the internet.
Well, and they've been, listen, they've been encouraged to do this. Did you see that tweet from the Iranian embassy the other day, basically urging people to do just that? Now, to my mind, that crosses a line. You are not a diplomat if you tweet something like that. The embassy should be closed. The ambassador should be expelled from the country.
Absolutely, and don't forget, we have a long history with the Iranians.
Yeah.
Go back to Fletcher, the poor woman that was shot outside the Iranian embassy.
No, that was the Libyans.
Oh, that's right. You're right, actually, yeah. Well, assisted by the Iranians, probably.
Well, I don't know that, and nor do you. So,
sure. But do you understand? We've got to wise up. It's up to all of us now. They don't change the threat level like that for no reason.
No. The one thing I would say, though, is that what we cannot have is some sort of feeling that anybody who hails from Iran in this country is part of this, because 99% of people who come from Iran are actually fleeing the regime. So let's not get it into our heads that there will be many people who have any sympathy with this at all, but there will be some, and therefore we need to be vigilant.
I'd slightly contradict you. I don't think it'll be the Iranians. It'll be others that are inspired by the mullahs to do us harm.
Well, there will be. You're right, but I mean, the point I'm making is that most people who come from Iran have fled that regime. So let's not sort of paint them all with the same brush.
No. I've had quite a bit to do with Iranians. Fabulous people and very, very switched on, very bright. And I'm sure that the majority of them wouldn't have any truck with any of this. But there are hardcore factions out there that will be.
Yeah.
They'll be banging their chests and they'll be champing at the bit to get on with it and do what the mullahs tell them to do.
Okay, Phil, thank you very much for your call. We'll keep your calls coming because we've got 15 more minutes before I hand over the baton to, I'm assuming it's Henry Riley tonight. It's 9:45.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Henry Riley.
Full coverage as the UK terrorism threat level is raised to severe after yesterday's attack in Golders Green, plus the row between the Met Police Commissioner and the leader of the Green Party.
Henry Riley at 10. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Calling all young creatives. It's time to get prepped for the art and design industry. And where better than Global Academy? Here's Keo, an art and design student in Year 12.
As an art student, we get the chance to work on our own pieces, either in the studio or using the digital software. Some of my work has also been shown in galleries, and last week I got the chance to attend a design agency to learn more about my future career.
Global Academy. Apply now and join us in Years 10 or 12. globalacademy.com.
3, 2, 1, 0% APR on an all-electric Mini Cooper. What was that, Luton? Handling is extraordinary, centre of gravity so low, and it could be ours with a 15% deposit and 3-year term. OK, Luton, reroute me to the nearest Mini retailer now.
Land a new all-electric Mini Cooper with 0% APR. Report to your Mini retailer today. Mini UK is a credit broker. Ordered and delivered by 30th of June. PCP finance with Mini Financial Services. Subject to status. 18+. T's and C's apply. mini.co.uk/Cooper.
Find me somebody to love.
This spring, Dreams are stamping down on price. Shop now for up to 40% off. Dreams. Love your bed.
Tesco Insurance are driving down the cost of motoring with 10% off car insurance. Take out a car insurance policy before the 15th of May 2026 and you'll get 10% off with Club Card prices. We offer a range of cover options, so you can choose the one that's right for you. Save 10% when you buy or renew a car policy with Tesco Insurance. Search Tesco Car Insurance and get a quote direct today. Club Card required. Excludes add-ons. T's and C's apply.
Your time is valuable. Your perspective should be too. The Economist cuts through the noise with the stories that truly shape your world.
How can you believe that a new regime won't crush you just like the previous one? Online scams are stranger than they've ever been.
When the world's turned upside down, know which way is up. Read, watch, or listen to The Economist.
This is LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
9:48. Let's go to Jerry in St Albans. Hi, Jerry.
Oh, hi, Ian. Isn't this country, what a state of affairs we're in? I'm actually quite gobsmacked with what happened yesterday. The majority of all my friends are Jewish, and they are the most warmest, lovely people that I have ever known. So I'm actually really annoyed, cross, I'm boiling, my heart is racing. Are we now saying that we need to feel sorry for this guy of what he did because the police stamped on his head?
I'm not saying that at all.
I mean, what are we doing? You know, why? I mean, why is somebody even mentioning that the police didn't handle him, you know, in a proper manner? You know,
because Jerry, there are some people in this world who believe that basically the police are the Antichrist, and therefore any excuse to criticise them, they will come up with. And these people are generally, not exclusively, but generally on the hard left of British politics. They despise the police, they have no respect for the police, they automatically jump to the conclusion that the police must be in the wrong, despite whatever evidence is put in front of them. These people have been doing this for decades now. This is nothing new, but social media gives them the opportunity to sort of effectively find like-minded people who think like them, and therefore it reinforces their views. They are evil, they're despicable, and I wish they weren't in our country.
I tend to agree with you. You know, I was in tears yesterday. I've never seen something like that in my entire life. And is this what we're heading for? I mean, what is going on? This country needs to really toughen up, because if it happened anywhere else, Italy, France, they would have been, you know, shot. End of. But no, now we've got to feed him, look after him, give him digs, probably, you know, in a prison. I don't understand why we just can't, you know, we know that this gentleman, well, no, not a gentleman, this guy was intent of causing harm. And 100% he was the culprit, yeah, the attacker.
Well, he's obviously. Well, no, seriously. I know you don't really mean that. I know your emotions.
No, I do.
No,
I do, because
you don't,
because called us
no,
or hang him.
No,
or
because if we become that kind of country, that is a very slippery slope.
No, it's not, because it's allowed. He knows the consequences. He's only going to end up in prison, fed, watered, and bed. You know, I have to pay for that. Tax people money have to take.
Jerry, let's bear in mind. Okay, look, I understand that you feel extremely strongly. Your views will be reflected by many other people, but he hasn't gone through the justice system yet. So let's. I mean, I hope if he's found guilty, he is put in prison for a very, very long time, so he can't possibly do this sort of thing again. But let's let the justice system take its course. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Let's go to Charlie in Manchester. Hello, Charlie.
Evening. I'm calling to give you some lived experience of Taser and how Taser works. So, for context, I am a former police officer and I have tasered 2 people in my career. And importantly, I've tasered 2 people 3 times. Now, you might wonder why I'm saying that. It's because Taser is not always 100% effective. Now, the way Taser works, you discharge the Taser and you get 5 seconds of electrical pulses through the body, which should disable the body, and it depends where it hits the person. It should not disable the use of someone's hands unless they've been hit in the hand or the lower arm. So if they've been hit in the body, it wouldn't disable the use of their arm, so they can release items, unlike what one of your other callers said. And there's many reasons that Taser can become ineffective. Now, on the video that a lot of us have seen on social media, you can see that a member of the public gets caught up in the wires from the Taser. Now, those wires are incredibly fragile, and if they snap or are broken, then the Taser instantly becomes ineffective because the electricity cannot flow from the Taser to the probe. Now, it's really disappointing to hear people saying that he was incapacitated, and I understand that people don't understand the technology, but these police officers are highly trained and they understand the situation that they're in. They're having to make decisions within split seconds, and they're also fighting for their own lives as well as others. Now, if that person would have become free, they've only got 2 cartridges in the particular Taser that they were using. So if they'd used both of those, which it looked like they may have done, but I'm not sure, then if he would have become free, then they would have then been fighting a man who has a knife and all they have is a big metal stick to fight him off with. So it's really irresponsible for people to not understand the context, but then have these extremely strong opinions as to what they should or should not have done. Now, as a former police officer in that situation, I would have done exactly the same. And one thing that police officers are told to do is if there is a marauding terrorist attack, which in my opinion that was, then they must incapacitate the offender by any means possible. Now, any means possible is any means possible. If you have to kill that person, you have to kill that person. If you were a firearms police officer, he would have been shot there and then on site. There would have been no questions about that. And actually, the disappointing thing is, had he been shot on site, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. He would have been applauded. They would have moved on. But actually, because the officers weren't armed to the teeth, which I'm very proud of that we're not in the UK, people suddenly believe that you have to be careful, you have to be gentle with someone. And that is just not the case in every situation. Mm-hmm. And it's just really frustrating to hear people calling up and saying things about the use of Taser, etc., that are just not accurate.
As I said before, I really hope that Aaron, the first caller that we had who was saying this sort of thing, I hope he's still listening, because our previous caller, was it Phil, and what you said, and that gives the lie to his contention that they were essentially using violence where violence wasn't needed.
And I would strongly suggest, if Zach Polanski's listening, and I hope he is, I would strongly suggest he goes to his local police force and he looks at the training that Taser officers are given, so that, and in fact any officer who is in and around another officer who has Taser is trained in a very specific way in how to handle that situation. And when somebody's on the floor, you need to get the weapon off them and you need to get them detained. They were unable to get the weapon off them, and people were saying that members of the public were taken. You'll actually see, if you watch the video back, that the police are grabbing Gitty's arm, trying to pull his arm away and trying to get that knife. They're unable to, so they try another tactic. They don't instantly kick him in the head. They try multiple tactics. And that video is several seconds long, but that's several seconds where all these decisions are having to be made one after the other very, very quickly. It's a scary situation. Police officers are human, and you can become just as scared as any other member of the public. And you, like I say, you're fighting for your life in that situation. My husband is still a police officer, and I don't know if he's going to come home at the end of the day. He was supposed to finish work today at 3:30, and he got home an hour ago. I had to text him and check, are you okay? Because I don't know if he's going to come home, and that is the same for every other family member of a police officer in the UK. And those officers just want to do their job, protect people, protect lives, but also protect themselves. And I think they've done exactly the right thing, and they've done exactly what I would have done in the same situation.
Well, great call, Charlie. I'm so grateful to you for phoning in. Thank you. Dave's in Luton. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Ian. Great show as usual.
Hi. I'm afraid we haven't got long, so far away.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to your researcher, I mean, I'm an ex-British judo champion and I've been involved in door security work for about 23 years. Those officers did exactly what I would have done. I would have probably turned the bloke inside out if I had the chance. The guy was intent on killing. He'd already nailed his colours to the mast. Those guys did exactly what they should have done. And like the last chap was just saying, he's lucky that he wasn't officers aren't armed, because they would have taken him out and I would have been 100% behind them.
Well, I'd like to think that any right-thinking person would have said exactly what you've just said, because to me it seems a statement of the obvious that the police were incredibly brave. They did exactly the right thing, and nobody, and particularly no political party leader, should call their actions into question. I think it's incredibly irresponsible of Zach Polanski to retweet that tweet, but there again, he's done it. There's nothing that can be done about that, but next time I interview him, I can tell you I will be asking him about it. Thank you very much indeed, Dave. Well, thanks for all of your calls and messages this evening and throughout this week when we've done the show from Washington, London and Cardiff. I'll be back on Bank Holiday Monday evening from 7. No rest for the wicked, is there? If you missed any of this evening's show, you can listen back on our free Global Player app or the LBC app, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news, videos and opinions. And I haven't mentioned, by the way, if you're in Cornwall, I'm going to be hosting 4 events at the Foy Literary Festival starting tomorrow right through the weekend. So have a look at that. Love to see you there. You can download the official LBC app for free from your app store now. Coming up at 1 on LBC, it's Clive Bull. But right now, in for Ben Kentish, here's Henry Riley.
Please get some sleep, Ian. Thank you. Good evening. At 10 o'clock.
The UK has been experiencing a gradual increase in terrorist threats for some time, driven by a rise in both Islamist and extreme right-wing terrorism.
The UK terrorism threat level is raised to severe following the